Hi, I read Bride by Hazelwood, and it was not good. I want to be one of those booktubers who has a whole outfit related to whatever book they talk about, but this is the only vampire related article of clothing I have. It's Dracula from Monster High. I mean, I've got this bracelet, it has a crucifix on it. Anyway, Bride. First of all, the only reason I even picked it up is because of Resident Evil. And I know that sounds weird, so let me explain. I am in a Discord server for talking about bad books, and somebody posted the synopsis for this book, and I read it, the synopsis. I thought to myself, that would make a really good Aeon fanfic, as in Ada and Leon. So I decided to write that. And then the book came out, and I was like, you know what? I might as well read it if I'm gonna steal the plot or the premise for my own fanfic. So I did. It's not good. It's not. It's just not. I can't really explain it. It's boring, honestly. Nothing really happens. I imagine the characters, the two main characters, Misery and Lo, as Leon and Ada from Resident Evil. Kind of, or unfortunately, Misery is really fucking annoying. So that was kind of hard. I'll put pictures of them for if you don't know what I'm talking about. The important thing to notice is that Ada is Chinese. Misery is a white girl with blonde hair. Both of them are white, presumably. Lo's never really described, aside from having dark hair and blue eyes. But, I mean, I was imagining him as a blonde anyway, so what do I care about descriptions? I was watching Read with Rachel's newest video, I think it was, and she mentioned a fan casting website. So I was curious, so I decided to see who people were fan casting as the characters from Bride. And somebody fan casted Lo as Avan Jogia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But he played Leon in the movie Welcome to Raccoon City. Somebody also fan casted Misery's dad as the guy who played William Birkin in Welcome to Raccoon City. That's not relevant to anything. I just thought it was funny. Also, apparently his name is Henry, which I completely don't remember at all. Somebody put Catherine Newton as Misery, and it's like, no, she is a werewolf. On Supernatural, Claire, who was played by Catherine Newton, was turned into a werewolf for one episode. Or in one episode. Yes, I needed to include that. Anyway. Let's get into the review. Hi, so, this is being recorded before I read the book, but I wanted to show you these sims that I found. The vampire and werewolf and wolf couple. Then you click on them and it's Misery Lark and Lo. I still can't get out that name. But yeah, that's the characters from the book. I don't know. So here's them. Can you move? And honestly, gonna be very disappointed if this is actually how they're supposed to look. Because, like, look at this boring ass white boy, first of all. Boring ass white girl. Like, nothing against. This is not against the person who made them. Just Hazelwood and like this boring ass white girl. Oh, I'm a vampire. I have a blood. I'm a vampire. Baby. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I made her head small. But yeah, I've been kind of imagining them as Leon and Ada from Resident Evil. So it's very disappointing. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. There's a prologue. I don't know what that was. The prologue is the wedding, so we just get right into it. Misery says, I only ever contemplated marriage once, back in the gloomy days of my childhood. Following a few too harsh punishments and a poorly executed assassination attempt, Serena and I concocted plans for a grand escape. And I'll marry you. They'll believe you're human, my human wife. As marriage proposals went, it seemed solid. So I nodded solemnly and said, I accept. That was 14 years ago, though, and Serena never married me. So I thought this meant we were getting a bisexual queen for a main character. That is not the case. Misery later refers to Serena as her sister, unfortunately. Her sister who she wanted to marry when she was a kid. She's marrying the alpha wolf, Lo Moyland, which is a place is one letter off from a place in Pennsylvania. I just felt that was important to mention because it makes the entire book ridiculous. Like this guy's name is one letter off from a place in Pennsylvania. It's so stupid. Yeah, he is the alpha wolf, and there is no such thing as an alpha wolf when it comes to real life wolves. I don't feel like explaining all of it because I don't remember all of it. But basically, the alpha wolves is like the parents, I think. I should have done research, I guess, but I didn't feel like it. So, you're here for a book review, not an extensive wolf lesson. And then, oh, this made me laugh. His pack, Miss Like. I pictured him in a home gym, tirelessly working on his abs. I just thought that was funny. It was the only joke in the book that I actually thought was kind of funny. Misery has a twin brother, and his name is Owen. There's a vampire language. I forgot to mention. Vampires spelled with a Y in this book, which a lot of books do this, and it's stupid. It's just different to be different. Just use an I. There's a vampire language called the Tongue. Vampires have purple blood, and werewolves, or as they are generally called, wares, have green blood. And this is the one time I did actual research for this video. Werewolf comes from the Old English werewolf, WERWULF, and were means man, according to dictionary.com. So basically, whenever they talk about the werewolves, and call them wares, they're calling them men. Misery is called a blade-eared leech, and I bring that up because it reminded me of the slur for elves, knife ear, I think, from Dragon Age. I think that's what they're called. It's been a while since I played Dragon Age, but I vaguely remember elves being called knife ears. as like a slur in Dragon Age. Misery falls and Lo catches her, and a combination of gravity and his sheer determination wedges me between him and the altar, his front pressing against mine. Then they smell each other. Good blood, my hindbrain hisses, nonsensical. He'd make for such good blood. They both think each other smell good, but Misery spends like the entire book thinking Lo thinks she smells like shit. Because why communicate when you cannot communicate, I guess? And then it says, we swear to love each other till the day we die, which, why? Like, it's an arranged marriage, everyone knows it. Like, why would that be, like, part of your wedding vows? And also, it's only for a year. They only have to stay married for a year, so it's like, why? Anyway, and then chapter 1 starts with a flashback to 6 weeks before the wedding. Misery's at work, she is the best programmer ever and a girl boss TM. She says, you'd be mad too if someone did a penetration test against a firewall you've been working on for weeks and reached it in, what, 1 hour? It was maybe a third of that, even counting the break I took in the middle after realizing how quickly I was blowing through the system. And her coworkers hate her, because of course they do. She is weird and a genius and whatever. Misery's father's right hand shows up. Her name is Vania? It's Vania. I have no idea how to...
Your right hand comes off?
I'm sorry. They go to the nest, which is the vampire HQ, and there's a wall full of pictures of Misery's ancestors. And she says, my grandfather was already old and a little demented by the time Owen and I were born. And my most vivid memory of him is from that one time I woke up in the middle of the night to find him in my bedroom, pointing at me with trembling hands and yelling in the tongue. Something about me being destined for a grisly death. In fairness, he wasn't wrong. This is never elaborated upon, or even comes up again. What does that mean? He wasn't wrong. You are still alive. What are you talking about? There's a mention of a river that slices the city into north and south. The world building in this book is terrible. It takes like half the book until there's any indication that it's supposed to be set in like our world, like in America and like Europe and like the rest of the world exists. There's no indication of what city. It's just called the city. It's not mentioned what state they're in. I don't even know if they're supposed to be in America, honestly. They could be in fucking Russia. No, because anywhere except Europe, basically. They could be in fucking Africa, for all I know. Anyway, the city elected a new governor who wants to end the collateral system, which is that the humans and the vampires exchange a hostage, and they go to live in the other's territory for 10 years from 8 to 18. Misery was the former collateral for the vampires? For the human? No, she was the former vampire collateral, so she was sent to live with the humans. And it has to be someone who is, like, related to someone in power. And then there's the good of our people as a whole comes before the good of the one, which isn't that, like, a thing from Star Trek? I don't know, I've never seen Star Trek, but isn't that... I'm pretty sure that's, like, a thing from Star Trek. And, some dumbass vampire teenagers swam across the river, and they were captured and returned safely, which is a big deal because before they would have been killed. So there's a new alpha who is Lo. Misery's dad says It appears that a few months ago someone challenged Vasco. Vasco was the old alpha. Challenged, their succession of power is not particularly sophisticated. Whales are most closely related to dogs. Whales are most closely related to dogs, after all. Suffice to say, Vasco is dead. There were 5 previous marriages between vampires and werewolves, and then there was another attempt which was called the Aster, because a bunch of people died, basically. It's the whole thing about had the colors, because vampires have purple blood and werewolves have green blood, and so a bunch of vampires died and a few werewolves died, and the Aster flower is like purple with green spots, I think. Or it might have been the other way around. I don't remember. It's not important. Misery says, I may be a bit checked out of the human cultural landscape, but I didn't think diplomatic relationships with the wares would be on their statecraft bucket list for the year. I don't know why I have that in my notes, honestly. Misery was bullied as a child by the other vampires before she was sent to live with the humans. Misery's dad, who I wrote has no name, but apparently his name is Henry. I really don't remember that at all. He proposes a wedding between Misery and the new alpha, Lo, and Misery declines until she hears his name is Lo Moreland, and then she agrees. Chapter 2 is back in the present day, but Misery is like thinking about when she met Serena. It says, humans kill all the time. Yeah, but indirectly, by making health insurance too expensive or stubbornly opposing gun control. No 10-year-old talks like that, Ellie Hazelwood. Which is weird because I think one of the stronger points is actually another character who is a child, who is Lo's younger sister, who is like, what, 6 or 7? I think she's 6 and about to turn 7. And like, she's honestly probably the best part of the book. She is fucking adorable. But yeah, right there, that's not, no 10-year-old would say something like that. Misery talks to the Governor Davenport, who is the governor who is going to be leaving office.
You are the governor of this city.
And she says she killed her mother, which was in childbirth. And he tells her the werewolf collateral is the alpha's mate. Again, why is there a wedding if it's just, why is it only Lo and Misery who got married and not the werewolf collateral, Gabby, and some other vampire also? Like, if they're basically just exchanging hostages, why the wedding? It literally makes no sense, and it's like the entire premise of the book. Logically, there should have been 2 weddings, but there's not, and there's no real reason why. Anyway, a vampire and a werewolf toddler get into a fight, and Lo stops it. Lo and Misery have their first dance for some reason. Again, it's not like a real wedding. Why are they doing all these like wedding things? Like, it's an arranged marriage that will last for 1 year. Lo asks if Misery's dad hates her and says she's under his protection, like he's the fucking mafia. And then somebody tries to kill Misery, and Lo stops him by, like, grabbing the knife. And little lamb. Chapter 3 starts with a little girl in Misery's room. And this is Anna, or Lo's sister. Then there's a flashback to when Misery reports Serena missing, and she found a note, and she says, She found a note left by Serena, and she says, "I had 3 whole words. L.E. Moreland." Those are not 3 words. That is not 3 words. That is 1 word and 2 letters. Chapter 4, Misery meets Alex, who's a werewolf who's just really nervous. He's like Otacon from Metal Gear. I didn't think of that when I was reading, but honestly, yeah, he's like a great programmer, hacker, whatever, and he's also very nervous. Alex says, "He is the most powerful were I've ever seen, and that my grandfather has ever seen, and he's seen many alphas. He was the fastest runner and the best tracker, and even his scent was right. That's why Roscoe sent him away, because the male love interest always has to be the best at everything. Just once I would like a book. I would like a romance between just some guy and the most amazing, gorgeous, incredible woman ever." That's basically Aeon, actually. Misery gets attacked by a young werewolf named Max, and she shows him her fangs, and Lo shows up and fucking kabedons her. And then, Chapter 5, Misery says, "I swallow against the sudden drought in my throat, which makes me realize where his hand is, wrapped around my neck, almost entirely. His fingers are so long they touch the valleys behind my ears." Which, yeah. Ellie Hazelwood has a size kink. This is not like a new fact. In one of her other books, the male lead somehow manages to fit the female lead's entire boob in his mouth. I don't know how that works, but that's what I've heard anyway. I've never read any of her other books, but somebody said that happened. Anyway, but yeah. Apparently she has a size kink, and it's always huge guy, tiny girl. Just so boring. But put in. Let me see if I can find it. I'll put in that one screenshot of the Resident Evil 4 remake where Leon's got his like 2 fingers wrapped around Ada's entire wrist. Because and then, but he sticks close, palms flat against the wall on each side of my head, which means that he gets to loom over me in a way almost no one ever does. Max is a fake bitch, and Misery's a virgin, and she thinks Lo hates the way she smells. I said that earlier, but whatever. Chapter 6. Misery says, "Because we're all bad bitches, till a scowling were stands outside the bathroom while we're washing her hair, till we lose our chance to snoop around." I just did not understand that, honestly. Mick is one of Misery's guards who is nice to her, and Misery video calls Owen. Nothing really happens. I think she just asks him to, like, look into Serena's disappearance. Anna climbs in through the window, and she tells Misery that she plays GTA with Alex, and she named Serena had a cat. Misery always calls him Serena's damn fucking cat, but Anna named him Sparkles. And she also always calls Misery Miracy, which, I mean, she's 6. Lo is gone. He's not there. He went somewhere. I don't remember where. Chapter 7. So every chapter has like a little bit from Lo's POV at the beginning, and for chapter 6 it says, "They rarely touch. When they did, her wrist accidentally brushed against the front of his shirt, and he found himself tearing off the piece of fabric where her smell was most intense. He slipped it in his pocket and now carries it everywhere. which is weirdo behavior. I don't care how hot he is. If he's weird. Actually, Lo is a lot better than I expected him to be. I expected him to be really toxic and possessive, but he's not actually that bad. The bar is in hell. Misery picks into Lo's room. She says, "My husband, I discover, wears size 14 shoes." Because you know what they say about Bigfoot.
Dude, look how big my new shoes are. Well, you know what they say about Bigfoot. You mean big feet?
They'll try to tell you he's not real, but I've seen it.
You know what they say about big feet. Wink. You know, he has big feet, so he has a big dick. If that wasn't obvious enough. And she also finds a bottle of silicone-based lube. Because we need to know that. Yeah, Misery is a virgin, but Lo isn't. I wish he was. Misery finds Lo's sketchbook in, like, the bottom of a drawer or whatever. And she says, "Initially, I think I'm looking at a photo. That's how beautiful the art is. How accurate and painstaking." Because, of course, not only is he the best werewolf to ever werewolf, he's also the best artist to ever artist. And he's also an architect. That's not really important at all. He drew a picture of Misery. And it says, "Lo Moreland has drawn my face and then stuffed it at the bottom of his bottom drawer." They have a werewolf barbecue. Werewolf barbecue. Spooky, scary.
Werewolf for mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolves.
Misery says, "My eyes are immediately drawn to him. Maybe because he's, well, big. Most wearers are tall or athletic, or both, but Lo takes it a notch further. Because, of course, he has to be huge compared to Misery." Put in that is an evil for. Said put it in earlier. Whatever. Put it in again. Then Max tries to kidnap Anna, and Misery ends up jumping out the window to save her, or to stop him. Then Chapter 8, it turns out Lo actually knew Max was shady all along. So they did like a catch a predator thing, except Anna was not in on it.
I'm Chris Hansen. No, you're not.
Lo gives Misery a sweatshirt, and Max says Lo isn't the rightful alpha, and everyone gets really mad because, of course he is. He's the best werewolf to ever werewolf. How could he not be the rightful alpha? Max spits on Misery, and Lo's hand jerks up to clutch Max's jaw. "Apologize to my wife." Again, it's not a real marriage. Misery, werewolves can do this thing called the thrall, which is like they move their eyes really fast and it, like, hypnotizes people and can get them to tell you stuff. So Misery does that to Max, and he says he was supposed to bring Anna to the Loyals to force Lo to step down as alpha, and he thinks Vasco's mate Emery was responsible. And then Lo is weird again. It says, "My breath catches as his arm reaches inside the hoodie he put on me. His palm briefly fits on my waist, then moves north to brush against my breast. And oh my god, what?" He slides his phone out of the inside pocket and pulls back. Who gives someone their sweatshirt with their phone still in the pocket? That's weird. And why was he fucking groping her? Mick has a bite on his neck from his mate, because mates are a thing. She's dead, though. And so is his son. Misery picks into Lo's room again, and there's a wolf there. Chapter 9. The wolf is Cal, who's another werewolf. He's not very important. Lo comes in and Cabadon's Misery again, because he is so big and she is so small. Misery just tells Lo everything about Serena, and it's like, okay. Like, it says, Misery has her own reasons to agree to this marriage of convenience. And it's like, why? What's the point if she tells Lo everything, like, 120 pages in? It's stupid. It turns out that L.E. Moreland is not Lo, but Liliana Esther Moreland, aka Anna. Chapter 10, Lo says, I think I will, though. You will? Trust you. And they've known each other, like, first of all, I saw people calling this slow burn. It's not. The entire book takes place over, like, a month, max, maybe 2. It's not slow burn. It's fucking flash frozen. I don't think that's a thing, but it should be. It's the opposite of fucking slow burn. Anna is half human. Mitsuri says, there are so many levels of impossibility here that a human unaware would even want to engage in what's necessary to produce a child. Because apparently nobody's heard of interspecies relationships ever in this world. That's not true, by the way. Spoiler alert. Lo says, but at times there are decisions that feel right deep in the marrow of my bones. He wets his lips. You are one of them. Because of course she is. It's fucking flash freeze. Okay? I don't know if that's a thing, but I'm going to make it a thing. The opposite of slow burn, flash freeze. Lo lived in Europe, in Zurich, where he studied architecture. But he came back when his mother was injured, and she told him about Anna's father when it became obvious she might not make it a recovery. And then Lo challenged Vasco to become Alpha, and he won. Vasco's 4 most loyal seconds challenged him. Lo says, there were others, weaker and weaker, and it felt so wasteful to... Then they became the loyals, and they have the blessing and leadership of Emery, Vasco's mate. She denies it, of course, and she's a smart enough player to avoid having the recent attacks traced back to her, but we have intel. This is never really elaborated on. Like, they're always like, oh, Emery's so bad and evil and blah blah blah, and it's never really, like, we're never given proof that she is this awful person. Like, we're told about the terrible things she has allegedly done, but we're never given proof that she was behind them. You know? Misery likes peanut butter. This is important because vampires don't eat. Misery says, our molars are mostly vestigial, so no chewing. But peanut butter is so smooth and creamy, and I know it's wrong, but I shiver with how amazing it tastes. Honestly, peanut butter is nasty. Not a fan. To be fair, I don't like peanuts in general, but whatever. Lo says he'll give Misery access to whatever technology she needs, and Alex will help and also monitor her. Anna comes downstairs crying because she had a nightmare, and Lo comforts her. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Lo and Anna are adorable and, like, the highlight of the book. Chapter 11. Misery and Alex are doing tech stuff and looking for Serena. Misery is annoying. She says, 2 things can be true at once. For instance, I like Alex because he's an intelligent, pleasant young man, and spending time together and watching him be terrified of me spikes joy. Because she's just... God. Lo and Alex leave somewhere. I don't remember where they go. Misery sees Juno, who's another werewolf, leaving the woods naked. Juno apologizes for being a bitch previously. She says, "Did Lo tell you Vasco felt so threatened he sent him away?" Alex mentioned something like that. Where did he go? To the Northwest Pack, with Cohen. And maybe it was for the best. Lo got to observe one of the best alphas in North America, and perhaps he wouldn't be nearly as good a leader if it weren't for Cohen. But he was 12, which... I hate Cohen. He appears later on. He's even more annoying than Misery, somehow. She also says, he hasn't had anything for himself, Misery. Not one thing. And I've never heard him complain about it, not once. Not that he had to leave, not that he had to take control of the largest pack in North America, not that he had to do it all alone. His life has been duty. She scans my face curiously, like I could right this injustice. Which, he's so great and self-sacrificing and blah blah blah. Like, hey, can we maybe not? This failed the Bechdel test. I think it does, actually. Does this book pass the Bechdel test? I don't know. But this scene doesn't. They talk about Gabby, the werewolf collateral. And then there's like it's a new scene, and it's a full moon, and God, it says, all wares will be in their most dangerous form, including many youths who have little self-control. Better not test them with unusual sense. I laugh at his old man yells at Cloud eye roll. Yes, very amusing.
Yes, very amusing.
Anna comes in because she can't turn into a wolf because she's half human. And so she hangs out with Misery, and then she falls asleep, and Lo comes home, and he like freaks out because he doesn't know where Anna is. Misery says, I want to ask him why I found a jar of creamy peanut butter in my fridge. She has a separate fridge for her blood than the regular fridge. I forgot. It's not important. If he's the reason the house is now 3 degrees warmer than when I arrived. Chapter 12. Lo is terrible with tech. Misery asks, how many times have you guys been over this? A handful, Lo mutters just as Alex says, 16. I whistle. Big hands. My eyes flick to Lo's. You know what they say about big hands. Do they say stuff about big hands? Anna makes dinner, and the werewolves are all nice to Misery, which is weird for her because basically nobody's ever been nice to her. Or whatever, I don't care. Misery doesn't know her birthday. She says, I count one up on Vampire New Year's Day, which, like, is that a thing? Is it separate from regular New Year's Day? The world building sucks ass. She continues to antagonize Alex because she is annoying as shit. Lo's hand closes around mine. Our wedding rings clink together as he lifts it from the table and sets it in my lap, his grip lingering for a second. I feel hot. I shiver. Lo clicks his tongue. Stop playing with your food, wife, he murmurs, and it feels almost intimate, smiling at him and catching the amused gleam in his eyes. They have this thing where they call each other wife and husband, and it's not important, honestly. Misery says, there's something selfless about Lo, as though when he became alpha, he left behind any trace of himself, or more accurately, locked it into a drawer. Lo is going to California to meet with Emery. And chapter 13. Misery and Lo hang out on the roof. It says, I can't imagine how difficult it must be. Learning to talk? That too, but also raising a young child, out of the blue. Not as difficult as being raised by some asshole who doesn't know to buy a car seat for you, or gives you Skittles before bed because you're hungry, or lets you watch The Exorcist because he's never seen it. But the protagonist is a young girl, and he figures that you'll identify with her. Wow. Serena and I watched that at 15 and slept with the lights on for months. The Exorcist is not fucking scary. Like, everyone acts like it's the scariest movie ever. It's not. I mean, yeah, I'd be scared of it if I saw it when I was like 10. But I didn't. And it's not fucking scary. Also, like, assuming Lo let Anna watch The Exorcist? How do you not know what The Exorcist is about? Like, how? I get that he's bad with technology, but like, how do you not know just from like cultural osmosis or whatever? Is that a thing? I think that's a thing. You know, where like everyone knows that Rosebud was the sled in Citizen Kane. I've never seen that movie. I don't know shit about that movie, but I know that Rosebud is the sled. Lo says, Anna's potty trained. Not by me, obviously. I'd have somehow managed to teach her to piss out of her nose. Because he's so humble and self-deprecating and blah blah blah. I'm getting on his case a lot, but I didn't actually mind Lo. It's like he does genuinely remind me of Leon from Resident Evil, honestly. It's Misery who's annoying as shit. Lo designed the home that they're living in because he's the greatest architect to ever architect, in addition to being the greatest werewolf to ever werewolf. Vampires and maybe werewolves don't have colleges. It says their school system, the human school system, is often the only option, simply because there's more of them, and they invest in education infrastructure. In vampire society, and I assume among wearers too, formal degrees are not worth the paper they're printed on. The skills that come with them, however, are priceless. And humans have installed technology that singles out faster than normal heartbeats and higher body temperatures in plenty of places. Because werewolves can't get an education, apparently. Lo says... Lo says Zarek was different, actually. Different? Werewolves and humans were attending openly. A few vampires, too. All living in the city. Wow. I know there are places like that around the world where the local history between the species is not so fraught, and living side to side is considered normal. It's still hard to imagine, though. Did you have a vampire girlfriend? I point at my ring finger. Once you go vamp, you can never go back, huh? I hate Misery. She is so annoying. Lo says, he was a grown adult. I was barely past puberty, but I always knew that he was never going to win a fight against me, and he always knew it, and everyone in the pack knew it too. Because Lo is just the best werewolf to ever werewolf. I don't know how many times I have to say it. He's the best werewolf to ever werewolf. He's the best... It's like... He's the best goddamn werewolf I've ever seen. It says, I chuckle. It's kind of your thing, isn't it? What? He turns to me. Blaming yourself for anything less than perfect? Because fucking Lo is so humble and stuff, you know? And then there's an exposition dump about seconds, which... So, this dominance thing. Is Cal the second most dominant were in the pack? This sounds foreign, like picking words at random. Magnetic fridge poetry. We're not a military organization. There's no strict hierarchy within the pack. Cal just happens to be someone I trust. Can't be more dysfunctional than arbitrary councils whose membership is established through primogeniture, and humans elect leaders like Governor Davenport. Clearly, there's no perfect solution here. Did he also have to challenge someone to become a second? Maybe Kendall? It's fucked up that I know who you're referring to. I chuckle. Hey, he never introduced himself. Ludwig. His name is Ludwig, and our pack has over a dozen seconds who are chosen within their huddle through a caucus system. Huddle? It's a web of interconnected families, usually geographically close. Each second reports to the alpha. After Roscoe, new seconds were elected, which means that most of them are as new to this as I am. Mick is the only one who kept his position. You mean the only one who didn't try to kill you? Yep. His laugh could be bitter, but it isn't. He and his mate were close friends of my mother's. Shannon used to be a second, too. Mick's mate and 16-year-old son died, and then Lo wants to see Misery's fangs. Well, he's my favorite wear. I hugged my knees. He's always so nice to me. That's because he has a weakness for beautiful women. What does that have to do with me? You know what you look like. I laugh softly, surprised by the backhanded compliment. Why do you always do that? He asks. Do what? When you laugh, you cover your lips with your hand. Or you do it with your mouth closed. I shrug. I wasn't aware, but I'm not surprised. Isn't it obvious? It's not, judging by his puzzled look. Okay, I'm gonna be super vulnerable with you. I take a deep theatrical breath. Steeple my hands. You may not know this about me, but I'm not like you. I'm actually another species called Misery. His hand comes up to snatch my wrist. My breath catches in my throat. Why do you hide your fangs? You're the one who told me to. I asked you not to respond to an act of aggression with another act of aggression, to avoid coming home and finding my wife torn to pieces, and someone torn in even smaller pieces next to her. His hand is still around my wrist, warm, a bit tighter. His touch flusters me. This is different. Is it? Would you not tear me into pieces? Come on, Lo. I free my arm and cradle it to my chest. You know what my teeth are like. Come on, Misery, he mocks. I do know, and that's why I don't get why you hide them. We stare at each other like we're playing a game and trying to make the other lose. Want me to show you? I'm trying to provoke him, but he just nods solemnly. I'd like to know what we're dealing with, yeah. Now? Unless you need specific tools or have a previous engagement. Is it bath time? You want to see my fangs. Now. His look is vaguely pitying. It's just... I'm not sure what's so concerning about the idea of him seeing them. Maybe I'm just remembering being 9. And the way my human caregivers always stopped smiling the second I began. A driver making the sign of the cross. A million other incidents through the years. Only Serena never minded. Is this a trap? Are you looking for an excuse to watch my entrails fertilize the plumbago? Would be highly inefficient since I could just push you and no one in my pack would question me. What a beautiful flex. He makes a show of hiding his hands behind his back. I'm harmless. He's as harmless as a landmine. He could destroy entire galaxies with his stern look and a growl. Fine, but if your wolfy sensibilities are repulsed by my vampiric tusks, remember you asked for it. I'm unsure how to initiate it. Snarling, pulling my upper lip back with my fingers like human dentists do in toothbrush commercials, biting into his hand for an applied demonstration, all seem impractical. So I simply smile. When the cold air hits my canines, my lizard brain screams at me that I'm caught. Fine, I'm found out. I'm fine, actually. Lo's pupils splay out. He studies my canines with his usual unalloyed attention, without recoiling or trying to eat me. Little by little, my smile shifts into something sincere. Meanwhile, he looks, and looks, and looks. Misery and Serena had a big fight before Serena disappeared. Misery asks Lo about mates. What the hell is a mate, precisely? Lo's face doesn't move a millimeter, but I know that I could fill a Babel tower of notebooks with how little he wants to have this conversation. No way. Why? No. Come on. His jaw works. It's a wear thing. Hence me asking you to explain. Because I suspect that it's not just the wear equivalent of marriage, or a civil union, or the steady commitment that comes with sharing monthly payments to multiple overpriced streaming services one forgot to discontinue. No. Lo, come on. You've trusted me with far bigger secrets. Ah, fuck. He grimaces and rubs his eyes, and I think I won. Is it another thing I don't have the hardware for? He nods and seems almost sad about it. I understood the whole dominance thing. We really made some strides in the past 15 minutes. Give me a chance. He turns to me. Suddenly he feels a little too close. Give you a chance, he repeats unreadable. Yeah, the whole rival species bound by centuries of hostility until the bloody demise of the weakest will put an end to the senseless suffering might seem thing might seem discouraging, but no buts. Just tell me. His lips quick into a smile. A mate is the cicada's quiet. We can only hear the waves gently lapping into the night. Who you are meant for. Who is meant for you. And this is a uniquely rare experience that differs from human high schoolers writing lyrics on each other's yearbooks before heading to separate colleges. How? I might be culturally offensive, but it struck as good-natured. I've never been a human high schooler, and the experience of it might be similar. The biology, of course, is another matter. The biology? There are physiological changes involved with meeting one's mate. He chooses his words with circumspection, hiding something, maybe. Love at first sight? He shakes his head, even as he says, in a way, maybe, but it's a multi-sensory experience. I've never heard of someone recognizing their mate just by sight. He wets his lips. Scent is a big part of it, and touch, but there's more. It triggers changes inside the brain. Chemical ones. Science articles have been written about it, but I doubt I'd understand them. I'd love to get my hands on weird academic journals. Everywhere has one? A mate? No, it's fairly rare. Most wearers don't expect to find one, and it's by no means the only way to have a fulfilling romantic relationship. Cal, for example, is very happy. He met his wife on a dating app, and they went through years of push and pull before getting married. So he settled? He wouldn't consider it that. Being mates is not a superior kind of love. It's not intrinsically more valuable than spending your life with your best friend and getting to love their quirks. It's just different. If they're so happy, could his wife be his mate? Could he have overlooked the signals when he met her? No. He stares at the moonlit water. When we were young, I was there when Cohen's sister met her mate. We were on a run. She smelled her, suddenly went real still in the middle of the field. I thought she was having a stroke. He smiles. She said that it felt like discovering new colors, like the rainbow had gained a few stripes. I scratched my temple. It sounds like a good thing. It's really good. Not always the same, though, he murmurs as if he's talking to himself, processing things through his explanations. Sometimes it's just a gut feeling, something that grabs you by the stomach and doesn't let go, ever.
She's like a part of me I can't let go.
World shaking, yes, but also just there. New but timeless. That's how you felt with your mate? This time he turns to look at me. I don't know why it takes him so long to produce that simple, yeah. God, this is just utter total shit. Lo has a mate, which is apparently amazing, but his mate is stuck among my people while he's married to me. His smile is secretive. Is that how your love has been? Unrequited? There has been no love at all. I rest my chin over my knees. It's my turn now to stare at the shimmery lake. I am a vampire. Vampires don't love? Not like that. We definitely don't talk about this stuff. Relationships? Feelings. We're not raised to put a whole lot of value in that. We're taught that what matters is the good of the many. The continuation of the species. The rest comes after. At least, that's how I understood it. I grasped my people's customs very little. Serena would ask me what's normal in vampire society, and I couldn't tell her. When I tried to go back after being collateral, it was... I flinch. I didn't know how to behave. The way I spoke the tongue was choppy. I didn't get what was going on, you know? Yes, he does. I can tell. Is that why you went back to the humans? It hurt less, I say instead of yes. Feeling alone among people who were never supposed to be my own. He sighs and draws up his knees, hands clasped between them. A thought vibrates through me. Right here, right now, I don't feel particularly alone. You're right, Lo. I don't have the hardware to understand what a mate is, and I can't imagine meeting someone and feeling the sense of kinship you're talking about. But I close my eyes and think back 15 years. A caregiver knocked on my door and introduced me to a dark-haired girl with dimples and black eyes. The breath I draw is stymied. I was able to install the software, because Serena gave it to me. And maybe I disappointed her at times. Maybe she was angry at me. But that means nothing in the big picture. I understand that you're willing to face Emery on your own, or to sacrifice everything for your pack. I understand because I feel the same about Serena. And for reasons I cannot fully articulate because feelings are fucking hard for me, I'd like to come with you. To help you find whoever's trying to hurt Anna. And I think that Serena would be proud of me because I finally managed to care about something. Even just a little bit. He studies me in the moonlit air for far too long. That was a badass speech, Misery. No, it wasn't. Badass is my middle name. Your middle name is Lynn. Misery's going with Lo to California.
I'm going to California.
Chapter 14. They go to California. Lo flies the plane. because I shut up when he lowers himself into the pilot seat. I'm tempted to ask when, between heading a pack and becoming an architect, he got a small aircraft license. Like everything else, Lo makes flying look effortless. And then they start basically humping each other in the plane. Because plot. This is plot, guys. If we smell the same, it'll send that message. Does it mean you should be smelling like dog breath? I joke. I'm going to do that. His voice is raspy. To do what? Make you smell like the plane touches down with a graceful bump. Me. My hands tighten around the armrests as we race down the runway. I'm horror-stricken. Scenarios of us splattered against the building at the end of the strip blooming in my brain. Little by little, we slow down. And little by little, Lo's words settle like dust. Like you? He nods, busy with some final maneuvers. I notice a small group of people gathered by the hangar. Emery's welcoming committee, ready to slaughter us. That's fine. Do what you want with my body, I say absently, trying to guess which one of them is more likely to throw a clove of garlic at me. Fair warning, Serena often bitches about how gross and cold I feel. Those 3 degrees make all the difference. Misery. Seriously, I don't care. Do whatever. The maneuvering is over. He unbuckles and assesses the wares waiting for us. There's 5 of them, and they look tall. Then again, so am I. And so is Lo. If they attack us, they won't. He interrupts me. Not now. But if they do, I can help. I know, but I can take them on my own. Come on, we don't have much time. He takes me by the wrist, pulling me into the main sitting area, which is larger than the cabin, but too small for the way we're standing in front of each other. I'm going to do whatever. I crane my neck past him to catch a glimpse of the wares through the portholes. Some are actually in wolf form. Misery. Just hurry and Misery. I jolt back to him at the command in his voice. There's an angry V between his brows. I need your explicit consent. For what? I'm going to send you the traditional wear way. It entails rubbing my skin against yours. My tongue, too. Oh. Something electric liquid pools inside my body. I deal with it the only way I can by laughing. Seriously? He nods, as serious as quicksand. Like a wet willy? His hand lifts to my neck. Stops. May I touch you? He's asking for permission. Why didn't you do that earlier when you grabbed her by the neck, huh? But there's nothing insecure or tentative about it. I nod. Where's the scent glands? Here. He brushes the pad of his thumb against the hollow on the left side of my throat. Here. The right side. And here. His hand wraps around my neck, palm flush against my nape. Your wrists, too. Ah. I clear my throat, and resist the urge to squirm because I'm feeling... I have no idea. It's the way he looks at me. His pale, piercing eyes. This is a, fascinating anatomy lecture, but... Oh, shit. The green markings at our wedding. That's never explained, by the way. It's mentioned that she has markings on her at the wedding, but it's never explained what that means. But you don't have scent glands, he says, like I'm more predictable than taxes. But you do have pulse points, where your blood pumps closer to the surface, and the heat will augment the scent. I'm familiar with the whole blood thing. He nods and holds my eyes expectantly until he understands that I have no clue what he's waiting for. Misery, do I have your permission? I could say no. I know that I could say no, and he'd probably just find another way to protect me, or die trying, because he's that kind of guy. And maybe that's exactly why I nodded and closed my eyes, thinking it won't be that big a deal. Which I soon realized might not be the case. It starts with heat, drifting over me as he shifts closer. The faint, pleasant scent of his blood climbing into my nostrils. After that, his touch. First his hand on my jaw, holding me still, angling my head to the right, and then his nose, I think, nuzzling down the column of my throat, moving back and forth over the place where my blood flows the strongest. He inhales once, again, deeper, then travels back up, the scratch of his jaw tickling my flesh. Okay? He asks in a low rumble. I nod. Yes, it's okay. More than okay, though I wouldn't be able to quantify how or why. And I'm sorry, stumbles out of my mouth. Sorry? The word vibrates through my skin. Because my knees are buckling, so I lock them. I still feel like I might lose my bearings, so I blindly reach up. Find Lo's shoulder. Grasp it for dear life. I know you don't like my scent. I fucking love your scent. So the baths did work. Oh, when he said tongue, I expected... Not that his lips would part at the base of my throat, and then a soft, drawn-out lips. Because this feels like a kiss. Like Lo Moyland is kissing my neck, slowly. Grazing it with his teeth, and finishing off with a light nibble. I nearly moan. But at the last minute, I managed to swallow back inside my body the whimpery, throaty sound, and God, what he's doing feel so phenomenally good? Is this as weird for you as it is for me? I ask, trying to make light of the flutters of pleasure in my stomach, because this thing's spreading like spilled water below my navel. It's arousal, and it could explode into wildfire very fast. It makes me think of blood and touching and maybe fucking, and as things are happening to my body, I'm terrified that I'll be able to smell them. Smell me. No, he growls, but it's not weird. Lo lifts his head from my neck. I'm so close to begging him to come back and do it some more, but he's just switching sides, and I almost yelp in relief. This time his palm cradles the entire back of my head, and for a few moments he thumbs the tip of my ear, exhaling slowly, reverently, like my body is a precious, beautiful thing. It's perfect, he says, and then his mouth lowers again. First, a delicate bite on my earlobe, then the swipe of his tongue at the base of my jaw. Last, right as I'm thinking that this is different from what I thought scenting would be, he moves to the bottom of my throat and sucks. He grunts. I gasp. We both let out staggered breaths as my hand creeps up to press his face deeper into me. He pulls gently at my skin, open mouthed, and the stimulation is like electricity, flooding me with warmth. Where his body temperature is much higher than vampires, and his body is a scant inch of air and possibilities away, and the heat of him. My breasts ache, nipples hard as gems, and I want to arch into him. I want contact in flesh and skin. Lo is solid, and I feel so soft, and his thundering heartbeat, his delicious beating heart, is a hazy, indescribable wonder pulling me to him. I squirm in his arms, trying to press against him, rub just a little, but no, because Lo pulls back. His hand closes on my shoulder, spinning me around until I'm facing away from him. My breath catches as I clasp a headrest for balance. Okay? He asks, wrapping his fingers around the base of my throat. I say yes as fast as I can, well before the word is fully out of his mouth, and he doesn't waste time, either. He lifts away the heavy mass of my hair, clutches my hips in his palm, presses my body against his. And once he has me how he wants me, he bends down. His teeth close around the back of my neck, hard this time, and I am flooded with a filthy, instant kind of pleasure. The cry that I managed to leash earlier burns out of my throat. There's pressure inside me, heady, scalding, and I can't bear for it to grow. Lo's hands travel down to my stomach, settling me more tightly against him. The curve of my ass finds his groin, and he lets out a satisfied, guttural sound that jolts my nerve endings. My blood sings, my ears roar. I'm melting. Fuck, he mouths. He runs his tongue over the knob at the top of my spine one last time, as if to soothe the sting of his bite, and suddenly I'm cold, shivering. When I turn, he's standing several feet away from me, eyes pitch black. The roar in my ears is getting louder, because it wasn't in my ears at all. A car is driving across the tarmac, toward our plane. Emery. I'm sorry, Lo sounds like a rake has run through his vocal box. His fingers twitch at his side, a reflex, like my hand lingering on the damp spot at the base of my throat. My hand shifts to massage my nape. I can still feel his touch. I'm sorry, he repeats. My fangs itch, like never before. I trace them with my tongue to ensure they aren't on fire, and Lo watches me do it, every second of it, lips parting. He takes a small, involuntary step toward me, then retreats again, appalled at his lack of control. This may be new to me, and I may not be aware, but whatever happened between us went beyond. Let me disguise you real quick and straight into something different. Something sexual. And if I know it, there's no way he doesn't. Lo, we should talk about this, or never mention it again. The way he's looking, he's opting for the latter. I'm done, he says to himself, eyes glassy. It's done. Is it better? His lips press together, as though there is a flavor he wants to hold in his mouth a moment longer. Better. Better? My smell. Do I smell like mine? It's a rumble in his throat. You smell like you're mine, Misery. Something charged shimmers through my body. It is, after all, exactly what we were going for. Chapter 15. They meet Emery. Lo says, she's not like he imagined. She's more in every possible way. They meet Emery. Emery Messner is petrifying, mostly because she looks really nice. I expected unhinged, rabid-looking, bloodthirsty greetings, unpredictability, threats of violence. What I find is a sweet woman in her 50s, wearing a Hope, Love, Courage pin on her cardigan. I'm no great judge of character, but she seems kind, and friendly, and sincerely personable. Her heartbeat is faint, almost reticent. I could picture her baking peanut-free treats to pass around after her children's soccer practice, but not abducting and murdering people. They talk about mates again. Is it about your sister? You think she won't accept Anna? He exhales a laugh and goes to put his shoes away. The opposite. Anna would be delighted, too. He checks that the door is locked and comes to bed. Scooch over, he orders, pointing at the side of the bed that's farthest from the entrance. I obey without hesitating. What if she feels the same way about you? She can't. The mattress dips with his weight. He lies back, still wearing his jeans and t-shirt. The back of his head sinks into the pillow as he crosses his arms on his chest. The bed is a king size and still a little too short for him, but he doesn't complain. Maybe she doesn't have the hardware. Maybe she doesn't feel the same biological pull toward you that you feel toward her. But she could still develop feelings. I toe my shoes off and kneel next to him. Is he going to sleep? You could still date her. We're still talking about this? He drawls without opening his eyes. Yes. What about now? Yup. No, I'm not going to examine my interest in the topic. Frankly, it's a bit childish, this all-or-nothing attitude of yours. You could still have a... He props up on his elbow. 1 second I'm staring at his handsome, relaxed face. The next his eyes burn bright into mine, and I can feel his breath warm over my lips. They still taste faintly like blood. Something charges between us. Something ready. You think that the reason I won't tell her is that a small part of her wouldn't be enough? He growls. You think that I would care if she were to love me less than I love her? That this is a matter of pride for me? Of greed? Is that why you think I'm childish? I open my mouth. A wave of heat, embarrassment, confusion, something else, slams over my body. You think, but you don't know. You don't know anything about what it's like to find your other half. He continues, voice low and sharp. I would take anything she chose to give me, the tiniest fraction or her entire world. I would take her for a single night knowing that I'll lose her by morning, and I would hold on to her and never let go. I would take her healthy or sick or tired or angry or strong, and it would be my fucking privilege. I would take her problems, her gifts, her moods, her passions, her jokes, her body. I would take every last thing if she chose to give it to me. My heart pounds in my chest, my cheeks, my fingertips. I've forgotten how to breathe. But I won't take from her. His eyes leave mine and steadily trail down my face. They stop at the neckline of my dress. Tonight I'm wearing our wedding band as a necklace, and he studies the way it disappears into the curve of my breasts. His gaze lingers, leisurely, for what feels like hours, but is probably a brief moment. Above all, I won't take her freedom. Not when so many others have already done so. Misery says, he's just so handsome, even to me, someone who's so different, so chronically weird, that I'm rarely afforded the privilege of noticing these things in others.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in.
And I'm convinced that his mate would agree with me. Misery rubs Lo's head until he falls asleep, because Lo, who suffers from something that's definitely not pneumonia, is breathing softly and has sunk into a tranquil sleep. Chapter 16. Love says, he's been picturing her during her baths. He's been having filthy, unspeakable thoughts. Misery takes a bath, and Lo comes in. Misery? Lo's voice pulls me back. I'm staring vacantly at the stained windows, a faint smile on my lips. Where are you? Bathroom! Are you dressed? I look down and shift the phone around strategically. Yep. The door opens a moment later. Lo and I regard each other from across the room. Him blinking, me staring, with similarly dumbfounded expressions. He clears his throat twice, then remembers that looking away is an option. You said you were dressed. I'm wearing my modesty froth. You, on the other hand, he frowns. I'm wearing jeans, plus a healthy layer of sweat and nothing else. The curtains are pulled, but sheer. The incoming light is warm and tints Lo's skin a pretty gold. His wide shoulders, his broad, heavily muscled chest. He's still glowing with the flush of being outside, in nature, and he looks healthy, even with more scars than anyone his age should have. Narrow, thin stripes and knotty twists. So I like looking at my husband who's a different species and fated to be someone else's mate. Whatever. Take me to court. Impound my non-existent assets. I'll overlook your nudity if you overlook mine, I offer. Lo's hand comes up to rub his nape. I took off my shirt before shifting and lost it. Let me find a clean one. I don't care. Plus you're sweaty and gross. His eyebrow cocks. Gross? I shrug, which maybe misplaces the foam. I'm not sure, nor am I going to check, as the answer could be mortifying. So you went frolicking in the mud with Emery? He snorts. With Cohen. He arrived early this morning. That sounds fun. He got to hang out for a couple hours with someone he clearly loves and trusts. Let his guard down. It was. It must be why his eyes are dancing, at once boyish and animated. Why he seems younger than last night. Why, when he walks inside and sits by my feet on the edge of the tub, he looks like he's been smiling. You know, I muse into the water, I think I want to see you. He looks down at his body. You want to see me? No, not naked. His head tilts in confusion. As a wolf. His is soft and amused. Can you quickly shift right now? But keep your distance, please. Animals tend to hate me. Nope. Why? I said upright, covering my breasts with my arms. Oh my god, does it hurt? Shifting? No. He seems offended. Phew. How long does it take? Depends. How long does it take for you, on average? A few seconds. Is it another alpha thing? And your motor proteins are super dominant? He glares at me. His glare tells me I'm on the right track. Shifting is not a party trick, Misery. Clearly, it's not a super secret deal either, because I've seen Cal as I gasp. I got it. Got what? I smile, fangs out. You don't want to show me because your wolfy coat is hot pink. Not wolfy coat, just coat. I splash him with my foot. Is it purple? He flinches and screws his eyes shut. Is it glittery? I splash some more. You have to tell me if it's glittery. His fingers close around my ankle, thighs tight. You done? He wipes his eyes with the back of his free hand and it comes away wet. My calf is pale against Love's skin, slick with water and soap suds. When his grip slips, he turns his wrist to adjust it, and it transitions into something that's more in the realm of a caress. Okay, so, we've been touching a lot since yesterday. We are touching a lot. About tonight, he starts, new topic, but his hand stays firmly in place. I talk to Cohen. He'll buy us some time. Distract Emery. How? We'll see. Cohen's a creative thinker. Does he know what we're planning? Not yet. He lowers my trapped foot under the water, but doesn't let go of my ankle, as though he doesn't trust me to behave. Or as though he doesn't want to. He might suspect, but he knows better than to ask. Plausible deniability. Wise. Hey, why is Cohen here? Emery is his mother's sister. His aunt? Correct. She was originally in the Northwest Pack, then moved when she met Roscoe. That's why I was sent to him. Wow. And she's still going to help you? He's no fan of Roscoe, or his own family. So relatable. After dinner, then? You're gonna say you need to feed, and you'll come with me because you're my worried and possessively protective alpha husband, and I have terrible orientation skills. All I need to do is get to the office, plant the devices, and get out. I bite into my lower lip. I could also do it on my own. I'm not sending you out there on your own. I'm not positive because of the water and the foam and the sheer improbability of it, but I think Lo might be brushing his fingertips against the arch of my soul. A tactile hallucination. You're a vampire. If Emery's guards find you, they'll attack first, ask questions later. He presses his lips together. Sit close, okay? I can fight, I say, to give him an out, to avoid thinking about what's going on underwater. I don't care. I'm not taking the chance. Not with you. I'm not sure whether to be flattered or indignant, so I opt for a flat, okay? He nods and finally lets go of me. I watch the play of his shoulder blades as he walks away and savor the glow his skin left on mine for a long time after he's gone. Cohen is the worst and most annoying character in the book. It says, Cohen is an asshole in the most delicious and entertaining of ways. He seems to have distinct preferences, strong opinions, and little interest in keeping either to himself. Let's all thank Lo for the opportunity to not have to tune out one of Roscoe's strange rants tonight, he proclaims loudly while taking his seat at the dinner table. I nearly choke on my spit, but no one else appears concerned that a brawl might be on the verge of erupting, not even Emery. I'm relieved that he doesn't hate me. The opposite, actually. When we meet, he clasps my shoulder and pulls me in for a bear hug that has me wondering whether he's aware that I'm a vampire or that Lo and I are not actually married. He must be around 10 years older than us, somewhere between a big brother and a father figure for Lo. But before dinner, when I watch them talk, two tall men wearing identical button-downs and exchanging hushed, comfortable words, the mutual affection and respect was obvious. And yet, they're about as different as night and day. Lo might be aloof at times, but there is something fundamentally kind about him, selfless and patient. Cohen is brash, cocksure, a little vicious. He's indeed no fan of Emery's and willing to declare it as forcefully as possible. There's a guy wearing a necklace with vampire blood in it, because that's the thing in this world. People sometimes wear vampire blood or fangs as accessories for some reason. Cohen calls John a fuckwaffle. Does he like to make enemies, start fights, watch the world burn? Cohen's big on Lo searches for the right words. Unfiltered honesty. They have dinner, and then Misery and Lo break into Emery's office and hack her computer. But then there are guards coming, so Lo tells Misery to drink his blood. Chapter 17. Misery drinks Lo's blood, and they both get really horny. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted, and not because I've only ever fed from chilly refrigerated bags. And in comparison, this feels scorching as fire. I think it has to do with the fact that this is Lo. And its blood tastes like blood, yes, but it's also spicy, coppery, a thrill on the back of my tongue. His blood tastes like his scent, and his smiles, and his hands lingering on my skin. Like the serious way he stares into the distance and rubs his jaw when he's worrying about Anna. His blood is everything that he is, and I'm drinking of it. It's the most delicious, the most earth-shattering, the most inside-out moment of my entire life. And then the first few drops hit my stomach, and everything changes. Mere feet from us, some things are happening. I hear them distantly, dreamily, gasps, a frantic, hushed conversation that includes words like "low" and "wife" and "feeding." A rushed, panicked apology, a door slamming closed. But all I can think of is misery, low grunts, warmth. I'm feverishly, beautifully warm, and empty, and bursting, and dizzy, and liquefying. And I feel like I need. I need more. I need Lo to be closer. Misery, he breathes. I don't know when, but my hands have hiked up to his shoulders. I moan into his neck, unable to stop myself. I want to climb under his skin. I want him to slide under mine. I want to give him every last thing he asks for. Fuck. His breath is shallow against my temple. I think he gets it, though, because he does exactly what I'm unable to beg for. His hand travels down my spine to cup my ass, and he holds me to himself while my legs wrap around him. My breasts are achy and tender, my core throbs, and there's an alarm in my head telling me that I should stop, that I'm drinking too much. It's killed into silence the moment Lo winds his fingers into the thick hair at my nape and orders, "Take more." I moan a blissful hum into his skin. Something wet and eager bursts inside me, spills into my stomach. Misery, misery. He scoops my head deeper into his neck, bucks against me in a way that feels not wholly voluntary. Take all you need. I cling to him like I'd die if he let go, desperate for friction. My hips grind against his abs, seeking relief, and when the contact feels good, I need more. More blood, more Lo, more of the stretching, rocking, taut feeling coasting inside me. I'm going to fuck. His voice is a thick, urgent rumble against my ear. Misery, let me. A stifled, filthy sound comes out of his throat. He's rock hard, and when he lifts me higher, fingertips press into my ass, trying to thrust against the perfect spot in me. I almost lose contact with his vein. Almost. I let out a plaintive, needy whimper, even as I writhe against his cock. I know, he murmurs, soothing, commanding. I know. Be good. I'm going to. The first twitches of pleasure hit me so hard, so sudden, I cannot process them. My back arches, my shoulders shake, my core spasms, and for a long second I'm just there, stretched, untethered, until something clicks and my orgasm explodes inside me, leaving me without breath. The pleasure is sharp, loud, all-consumingly bright. It bursts to everything, and then it doubles, and then it swells again, until everything else is gone, and I come, and come, and come, sinking into its tide for seconds, minutes, centuries. Why does she spell come C-O-M-E instead of C-U-M? Like, she keeps doing it. Anyway. Then slowly it shrinks to aftershocks pulsing through my body and licking down my spine. I'm glad Lo is pinning me to the fireplace because I've lost control of my limbs. My breath is stymied, and I pant into his still open vein. His precious, beautiful vein. I'm not capable of rational thought at the moment, but I lean forward and suck at the wounds I open, then lick at them like a kitten, rescuing every last green drop. It's an automatism, something written in my genes, and Lo seems to enjoy it too. Intense satisfaction radiates from him. His big hands clutch at my hips. Soft, pleased phrases are muttered against my cheekbones. The blood stops seeping through, his skin sealing shut. I pull back, feeling supremely smug, brimming with pride for a job well done. I'm full, satiated, happy. I'm strong and warm all over, comfortable in a way I haven't really experienced before, and it's all thanks to Lo, and his powerful blood, and the way his heavy breath feels against my skin. Oh God, Lo. I push against his shoulders, and he doesn't immediately react. Let go of me. It's all it takes. He gently lowers me until my feet are on the ground, and then tries to take a step back, but I can't let him. I cling to his shirt, following his retreat. Misery. I'm physically unable to give him up. Misery. His hoarse voice jerks me out of my trance-like state. I put some air between us, which feels like a supremely bad idea. Cold and invasive and all wrong. My hair is wild and the fabric of my dress caught at my waist, but I'm too busy staring at Lo to do anything about it. His pupils have swallowed the iris. They travel down my legs, mesmerized. And then he hugs me, both arms enveloping my shoulders, my head nestled under his chin. It's not like before. Not in that sexual, feverish way that's all about heat and shared skin and contact. This hug is all about closeness, and Lo burying his nose into my hair, and my heartbeat seeking his. We should probably discuss what to do when the next person barges in. Come up with an action plan, but all I want is to be here. Cling to him. I could fuck you very nicely right now, he says into my ear. He sounds honest and a bit resigned. I almost did. You know, I was actually enjoying that bit until the part about fucking. Like, can you not? Hey, can you not? Emery comes in, and then Cohen appears behind Emery, leaning against the door jamb with a shit-eating grin. I, for one, am glad the kids are having fun. Yeah, well, when you're done, please come back to the table. We're waiting for you for dessert. And Emery, they already had dessert. Emery makes a revolved face and pushes past Cohen. Chapter 18. They go home. Anna is sick. Misery says, I lived among humans for 1.5 decades. Why 1.5? Why did she say 1.5 and not a decade and a half? I don't know. Misery gives Lo the names of drugs Serena took when she was sick. And then I decide to make myself scarce and go look for Alex, hoping he's still awake. I'm in luck because I find him in Lo's office. I walk up behind him, curious about what has him so engrossed he didn't hear me coming. Playing smuggled human games and GTA, no less, at your boss's desk? The sheer gall of today's workforce. Shut up, Rick! He almost falls off his chair. Where are you? You're so close all of a sudden! I had garlic for lunch and my blood is probably poisonous to you. I give him my best disappointed pout. I miss you too. We're intercepting, right? He nods, still clutching his chest. Yes, I'm getting great signal. Emery can't book a chiropractor appointment without us knowing. Lovely. Anything yet? He shakes his head. His nostrils twitch. You smell different. That's why I didn't notice you coming in. Uh-oh. Maybe my vampiric stench is growing on you? No, you smell like... By the way, Lo asked us to work on a project. I interrupt. It's a lie, but I don't think Lo will mind. What? It's something that just occurred to me because of what Anna said. Misha gets to have 2 parents and I get none. When trying to figure out who told Serena about Anna, we assumed it couldn't be her father because he never believed Maria when she said she was pregnant. But what if that's not the whole story? He wants us to get a list of humans who are part of the Human Wear Bureau, say 10 to 5 years ago? It's safer than saying 8. Alex is not stupid. Lo is looking for people who would have interacted with Wares an hour. In his pack. He blinks curiously. Why? I don't know. Something came up when we were at Emery's, and he said he'd need to know. Maybe I'm a better actor than I give myself credit for. Any person who worked for the Bureau? No other criteria? I ran a hand through my hair, thinking. Men. Just men. Okay, yeah, sure. Do you have time to start now? I smile as fingerlessly as I can. Or are you too busy playing pretend street gangster? He flushes a cute shade of green, clears his throat, and we spend the next hour finding very little because of the disorganized mess of the human archives. We give up when Alex starts yawning. Oh my god, he says after I stand to leave. What? His eyes are moon-wide. Got what? What you smell like. Fuck. Thank you. Good night, Alex. Why do you smell like my alpha mic'd you? Is the last thing I hear as I head back to Anna's room. Anna starts feeling better. He nods and I nod, and when he sinks to his knees, when he buries his face in my lap, I welcome him. Let my hands run over his soft hair. Feel his deep inhale. His shoulders, so broad and strong, rise and fall. I slide my hand down the back of his neck, inside his shirt, hoping my cool skin will be as soothing as his heat is to me. Misery, he sighs, and his breath warms the skin of my belly through the fabric of my dress, and I'm still alone, still different, still mostly on my own, but maybe a little less than usual. His fingers close softly around my ankle, the metal of his wedding band hot against my skin and bones, and for the first time in more than I can remember, I feel held. I'm here, I say only in my head, with you. We stay like that for longer than I can keep track of. Chapter 19. Misery talks to her brother on the phone. She asks him about feeding from drinking blood from another person. Your dislike breaks my heart, I tell him in the tongue, straight-faced. Please answer anyway. Who have you fed from? I straighten my face even more. I didn't say I fed from someone. No, you asked whether there can be any negative consequences if a live source is fed upon, and I brilliantly deduced it, because you've never exhibited any curiosity on the topic before, and I'm not a damn idiot. Who? I let out a deep breath. Who do you think? He face palms. Your husband. Your were-husband. Your alpha were-husband. Please. Did you voice him? What? No. His curse is not soft. Do not tell. Your dislike breaks my heart, I tell him in the tongue, straight-faced. Please answer anyway. Who have you fed from? I straighten my face even more. I didn't say I fed from someone. No, you asked whether there can be any negative consequences if a live source is fed upon, and I brilliantly deduced it. Because you've never exhibited any curiosity on the topic before, and I'm not a damn idiot. Who? I let out a deep breath. Who do you think? His face palms. Your husband. Your were-husband. Your alpha were-husband. Please. Did you voice him? What? No. His curse is not soft. Do not tell father this happened. Why? He tried to exploit it. In what way is there anything to exploit about this? He pinches the bridge of his nose. Misery, do you know nothing? What should I know? How did you not just pick stuff up growing up? The noise that comes out of my throat has Ludwig checking in on me. From whom? From my human caregivers? Okay. His hands lift, a silent order for me to stay quiet while he collects himself. I consider hanging up on him and asking father out of spite. It's not normal for him to let you feed, for anywhere to let a vampire feed. Maybe Lo doesn't know that. Our species have been enemies for centuries. Do you think they didn't grow up thinking that being sucked on by a leech is the highest level of defilement? Do you think that using his blood to keep alive the people who killed his ancestors is something his pack will be okay with? I remember Emery's disgusted expression, her seconds gasp. Even Cohen had to suppress his initial shock at seeing my marks on Lo's neck. And Lo, pulling me to himself after I said I wasn't okay. Lo is different. Clearly this is something you should bring to your grave. It's obvious that there is some friendship here. I think about it for a minute, then nod. So he took a liking to you. He wipes his forehead. This is weird. I'm glad you're alive and maybe going to stay that way, but it's weirder than that. When I fed from him, Misery, he gives me a blistering look. I went through puberty and vampire territory. I know exactly what happened when you fed from him. Please do not continue. People who shared a placenta for 9 months should not talk about this stuff. Am I flushing? I am. We're dizygotic twins, which means that we never shared a placenta or an umbilical cord. A womb, at best, really. Still, do not subject me to a retelling. Owen tips his head back and looks at the ceiling. Can you just tell me if there will be any negative consequences for Lo? I want to be sure I didn't harm him. Owen sighs. As long as you didn't take too much, he'll be fine. And you'll probably be fine too. Honestly, there aren't that many case studies of vampires feeding from wares. Okay, phew. Thanks for letting me know. Have a good life. I'm hanging up now. Misery, listen carefully. There's a reason our species decided to transition from live feeding as soon as the technology to safely draw and store blood became available. Drinking from a live source is not just something that's hard to tease apart from sex. It has hormonal and biological consequences that are trivial in the moment but might build up in the long run. That's why it's been discouraged among vampires for centuries. We need to fuck as many people as we can and reproduce, not form bonds. Repeat feedings create complex dynamics that... He stops abruptly, shaking his head. His expression has softened, and I wonder if he has done it before. If it's something he'd want to do with someone else. Don't do it again, Misery. Be his friend. Build a chicken coop with him. Fuck him if you want. Do not feed from Lo Moreland again. Misery tells Lo she's looking for Anna's father, and eats peanut butter. His hand swipes the tip of my nose. He holds his fingertip up to show me this small clump of peanut butter. I should be wondering how it got there to begin with. What I do instead is lean forward and lick it off Lo's thumb. I regret it instantly. I don't regret it at all. It turns out the peanut butter was actually poison, and now Misery is poison. Chapter 20. Misery is unconscious. There's a mention of her organism, whatever that is. She wakes up, sees Lo in wolf form, and then goes back to sleep. Chapter 21. Anna was sent to live with Cohen for her safety because they think that the poison was meant for Anna. And Lo wants to send Misery away too. It's hard for me. What is? To see you like that. To let anyone else touch you when you're hurt or sick, or just... I don't need that qualifier, actually. To let anyone else touch you is... Lo gives Misery a bath and jerks her off. Instead, the corner of his mouth lifts into a soft smile, and he abruptly picks me up, arms under my back and knees. What is happening? You do need washing, he agrees, carrying me out of the room. Are you going to hose me off in the garden? We'll see. But he brings me to my bathroom, deposits me on the marble counter, and draws a bath. I'm not so weak that I couldn't do this on my own, but I enjoy watching his graceful movements, the hypnotic play of muscles under his t-shirt as he bends to fill the tub. The water level slowly rises, and he tests the temperature with his fingers. I think about Owen, the only person who may have been remotely upset by me being on the brink of death. I should contact him. I should ask after Lo's mate. As the wear collateral, she must have been terrified, because my death would lead to hers. I bet Lo was acutely aware and feared for his mate. But I also believe that he cares for me. Deeply. He chooses a lavender bottle from the shelf. I can't smell its scent, but as steam fills the air, I pack my lungs with warm air. I may not be who Lo was meant for, but that doesn't mean that there isn't something here. And I've had so little throughout my life, I know better than to demand all or nothing. I'm good at making do. It's ready, he says with his deep, mundane voice. It's a dreamlike sequence, but we're on the same page. I slide to my feet and untie my hair, running a hand through it until it falls limp around my shoulders. I take everything else off and stand naked, skin pale and cool and tacky. Should I be nervous? Because I'm not. Lo, I'm not sure how he feels. He certainly doesn't pretend to be uninterested and looks his fill, following each curve of mine more than once, betraying little but hiding nothing. I'm not made like a werewoman. I'm not toned, and I have no defined muscles. Either Lo knew to expect it, or he doesn't mind. His eyes glaze over as I step forward, and I take his hand when he offers it. I'm drowsy, wobbly kneed. He lowers me into the tub. This feels nice, I sigh once I'm submerged. I lean forward, forehead against my knees, letting my hair float around me. It does. He's not in the bath, but perhaps he's referring to the shaky warmth of this unspoken agreement. This moment we're sharing. He takes a washcloth from the shelf and dips it into the water. His first pass is delicate over my bent neck. So you're one of them, I say, instantly relaxed under his touch. Of who? People who use washcloths. I hear his smile in his voice. If you have a sponge, I don't use anything, I offer, because it's very much an offer, a request even, but he says nothing and continues with my arms, starting from the ball of my shoulder. His hands are firm but lightly trembling. He might be more tense about this than I am. It seemed too forward, he admits at last. His cheekbones are dusted with an olive tone, his voice husky. He patiently works his way to my ankle, then slowly up my leg. I decide to be forward. I take his hand into mine and stroke each knuckle with my thumb, one by one, and once his guide is relaxed, I steal the cloth from him and let it float away. I know he wants to touch me. I know he won't ask. I know he needs me to do this. Put his hand back on my knee, this time without barriers. His breath hitches, then comes faster. His jaw shifts, like he's biting the inside of his mouth. The skin of my thigh glistens under his eyes, and his fingers tighten around my flesh, on the verge of something wonderful, something we both want. But Lo talks himself out of it. He squeezes his eyes and stands to take care of my back. I swallow a whimper, coward, and whisper good-naturedly. In retaliation, he leans in to kiss my nape like he did on the plane, sucking and licking and some gentle biting. A subtle reminder that he's different from me, a whole other species. If we do this, we'll have to work things out. How do wares have sex? He laughs softly against my skin, but I sense an edge. Are you worried? I turn my head back. Should I be? He massages my sternum. I'm not gonna hurt you. Not ever. I know. I'm not sure why I asked. I close my eyes and he takes the invitation as what it is. I lose myself in his touch, wondering how something that requires so little can feel so good. He lingers on my breasts, around my hips, but also everywhere else. All the curves and angles, all the soft, vulnerable places. My skin tingles, simmering with an unknown sort of pleasure. Lo is painstaking. He finds spots he wants to explore, slows down, and his breath grows heavy in my ears, broken by soft hums of approval. He takes his time, delays moving on, until he's satisfied that his task has been completed. There's something patently sexual about this, no question, but it goes beyond. I'm being discovered, mapped, soothed and ignited at once. You are so beautiful, he whispers an absent-minded thought more than a declaration, and suddenly I can't stand it anymore. Eyes closed, my hand searches for him under the water. I braid our fingers together and guide them to my inner thigh. It's a silent plea. I'm just so tired, I sigh, and I really want it. God, misery. His heartbeat smells like he'd die for this, and yet he's about to ask me if I'm really sure, and I'm going to laugh at him, or snarl. Lo, will you help, please? His fuck is soft and awestruck, but his fingers shift to where I need them. Barely a brush of knuckles against my labia, but I hiss straight as he inhales. Our breaths catch together, balancing in the room. Okay, a rumble from deep in his chest. Okay. The pad of his thumb finds my clit in warm, rhythmic circles. Lo licks his lips and half asks, half growls, "Like this?" I nod. It's not what I'd do for myself, but it works, somehow, even better. There's some clumsiness on both our ends, but he figures out where to touch me. How long, how hard. Yes, I bite into my lower lip, fangs exposed and press into him. The night we met, when he came down the mezzanine stairs, he groans against my shoulder. I thought about doing this. There must be something dramatically, massively compatible between us, because I feel every stroke of his fingers deep inside my soul that I'm not supposed to have. Yeah, the hot, mounting sensation in my lower belly knots into a tangle of heat. I squirm, arch my back. Cold air sweeps over my wet nipples. You looked cold in your jumpsuit. He sucks at the same spot on my neck that he fixated on back at Emery's on the tarmac. You look so lovely and so determined and so fucking lonely. I grind against his hand, shamelessly whimpering at the empty, swollen feeling inside me, clutching blindly at his muscled arm with both hands. I thought about taking you away. I thought about getting you a blanket. His index finger slips inside me, and with a brief adjustment, I push against it. I thought about making you come with my mouth until you couldn't take it anymore. The pleasure snaps inside me like fireworks, a glow of heat and relief. I clench around Lo's hand, curling into his arm, shaking all over it. The scream burns in my throat, but I swallow it down into a small moan, and then it's a mess, cobbled together with fluttering heartbeats and gasping breaths. Lo is staring at me, mouth parted, throat bobbing. His icy eyes flare into mine, and I laugh, throaty and raspy. And then he eats her out. His eyes are paler than ever. Come here. He picks me up again, and I want to remind him that I'm not defenseless, but this might be more for him than me. So I bury my face into his neck, and instinctively dart my tongue to lick the glands he told me about. His entire body shudders, and then we're in my room. I expect us to tumble onto my mattress, but he lowers me inside the closet, on the mound of blankets and pillows I've assembled, then instantly pulls back. Lo? The timbre of his voice is rough and low. You smell like you just came. I stare back, speechless at its directness. I did just come, and I need to eat you out. He needs to. Okay, it's a weird thing, he says, almost apologetic. This never comes up again. I nod, and when he bends to nip at my hip bone, I close my eyes and welcome it. The stretch of my thighs as they are spread out, the hitch of his breath as he looks and looks and looks some more, his raspy groan, and then the contact with his mouth. There is something beseeching about the way he licks and sucks, something not quite in control, and when the pleasure begins fizzling in my stomach again, I writhe against his lips and give him what he wants. I comb my fingers in his short hair, but he takes my hands, both wrists locked in his large fingers, and pins them to my side. Be still, he orders, and the sight of me restrained must do something for him, because his other arm disappears down his body, the rhythmic flex of his corded shoulder a mesmerizing sight. He's touching himself because what he's doing to me makes him want to, and the idea is like fire in my belly. I can't, I hiss out, itching into him even more. Hush. My brain cannot unravel how much he seems to be enjoying this, the sounds he produces, the consuming way he kisses my clit and my opening, the sweet scrape of his stubble against the crease of my thigh. I'm mindless, completely unraveled, and I'm dragging him with me. You are fucking unreal, he says, and when a knuckle slides inside me, I feel myself clench around it. I don't think Lo is inexperienced, but there is an edge to his movements, something more enthusiastic than skilled, something just perfect. He gently bites my swollen lips, making me jolt, and then chases the sting with his tongue. When the heat rises in my chest, when the pressure coils and I thrash around, he anchors me with an arm over my hip bone. That's what has my legs quivering and my nipples are aching and me coming hard, Lo's presence surrounding me, taking up every molecule of air. Once I'm a shaking mess, he groans against my pussy and lets out a low, I'm going to. His grip on my thighs becomes nearly painful. His hips jerk, and my heels dig into his shoulder as the pleasure crests violently inside me once again. I probably back out a little, because when everything recedes, I find Lo crowding my body, still hard against my hip. His jeans are warm and sticky. His heartbeat pounds on the back of my tongue as he guides my head to his neck. I think, he says, winded voice, I'm going to lock you in this closet forever. I nuzzle closer. I think I'd love that. My fangs graze against his vein until he growls. I reach for the button of his jeans, fumble with it, and almost have it open when his phone rings. Then Owen calls, and Serena's apartment was broken into. Chapter 22. Anna's father is Thomas Jolikas, who died in a car accident 2 weeks after Serena disappeared. Misery and Lo are having dinner with Governor Davenport tomorrow. Misery says, my stomach growls, and I remember why I came downstairs. My organism, slowly self-cannibalizing. What is her organism? What does that mean? It's never explained. Lo wants Misery to drink from him, and she does, and then they have sex. It says, a large, capable, fearless hand. I bring it to my lips, kiss it lightly, scrape it gently with my teeth, which has his eyes fluttering closed. He mumbles a few hushed words, but I cannot make them out. If I really do this, I say against his flesh, I should avoid your neck. Why? It might leave a trace. People would notice. His eyes shoot open. You think I'd mind? I don't know. I lie. I doubt Lo cares what others think of him. You can do what you want with me, he says, and it feels like he means more than just his blood. My fangs graze his wrist. I'm teasing myself as much as him. Are you sure? I hover, afraid that it won't be as good as the first time. Maybe I embellished it in my head, and it'll taste like every bag I've ever had. Unsatisfactory, unremarkable. Please, he says, soft, hungry, and I sink my teeth into his vein. The wait for his blood to hit my tongue lasts long enough for thousands of civilizations to collapse. Then his flavor floods my mouth, and I forget everything that is not us. My body blooms with new life. Fuck, he slurs. I take more with a strong pull, cradling his arm to myself, and he presses me against the fridge. His teeth have come to my neck and bite, hard enough to leave a mark. He seems to have descended into a trance-like state, to be moved by instinct. Sorry, he gasps, and then resumes sucking on my neck, licking my pulse, miking me. Of all the good things, he grasps my hips as I roll them into his. Of all the good things I've felt in my fucking life, you are the best. I take one last gulp and seal the wound with my tongue. His eyes are stark, wide, a wolf's eyes. They stare at my fangs like he's desperate to have them in his body once again. Am I? He nods. I'm going to. He kisses me, eager, immediately deep, tasting the rich flavor of his blood on my tongue. Can I? He picks me up and carries me upstairs. I bury my face into his neck, and every time I nibble at his glands, his arms tense with pleasure. Lo's room is dark, but light filters from the hallway. He deposits me in the middle of the unmade bed, pulling back instantly to take off his shirt. I sit up and look around, processing that this is really happening. I didn't change them for the longest time, Lo says. I admire his beautiful form, the corded strength of his body. I could bite him anywhere and would find nourishment. Sip from his round biceps, the V on his stomach, the heel of his lats. What? I'm losing track, skipping words. Didn't change what? The sheets. Why? They smelled like you. When? Oh, my bacon. Sorry. The scent was so sweet. I got myself off to the filthiest fantasies, Misery. He gently flips me around, belly against the mattress. My leggings I pulled down to my thighs, my shirt in the opposite direction. And then the smell faded. He climbs over me on each side of my legs. His hands close on the round globes of my ass, half stroking, half gripping. Through the rough cloth of his jeans, his erection drags against my thighs. When I twist my head back, he's tracing the shallow dimples in my lower back with a pleased expression. Not the fantasies, though. He descends over me, his heat an iron blanket. I can't be anything but what I am about this, he whispers against the edge of my ear. There's a hint of apology there. What are you? Where? His hand wraps around my ribcage, but halts right underneath my breast. A silent reminder that we can always stop. Alpha. I wouldn't want you to not be you. Can I? His teeth close gently around the ball of my shoulder. I'm not going to draw blood or hurt you, but can I? I nod into the mattress. It seems only fair. He grunts, grateful, and licks a long stripe up my spine and into my nape. He's vocal in his pleasure, vocal in his praise, and even though I don't fully understand it, this is a thing for him, something important and consuming and maybe even necessary. His hand pins my wrists again, above my head, as though he needs to know that I'm here to stay. I struggle against his hold, just to test it. Be good, Lo clicks his tongue. You're all right, aren't you, Misery? Yeah, I breathe. Nice. Very. I am profoundly obsessed with these. I feel hot air against my skin and realize he's talking about my ears. Are they sensitive? I don't think. His teeth close around the tip, and it's like a current passing through me. I see that they are, he drawls. His cock presses harder against my ass, and his lips drift back to my nape over and over again, like he cannot help himself, like it's the center of gravity in my body. I remember the plane, how close he got to losing control when he first touched me there. Do wares have a gland there? I ask, words muffled into the sheets. I'm more wet than I can remember being. If this is the hottest thing I'll ever experience, I'd love to know why. It's complicated. He sucks a mic into the knob at the top of my spine, and I make a guttural sound. And he does. There's some fumbling behind me, his belt unbuckled, the zipper of his jeans lowered, and after a few seconds of wrestling, his cock splits the cheeks of my ass, pushing between them. It's wet and hot, rubbing up and down for the right amount of friction. Lo makes a stupefied sound. Condom, I gasp. Not something vampires ever use, but maybe wares do? Do you have one? He goes back for one last nibble before turning me around. No. His eyes glow with determined, reflected light as he takes off my leggings. He stares down at me with a transfixed look that strikes me as the culmination of many things I'll never hear about, and when he bends down to lick my collarbone, I feel how hard he is, leaking against my stomach. The heat of him feeds my hunger for blood in a confusing, beautiful build-up. But do you want to use something? I ask. We don't need to, he says, pushing up my shirt. This time, the bite is on the side of my breast. His tongue circles around my nipple before pressing flat against it. Then he sucks, mouth wet and electrifying. Stop, I force myself to say. He instantly pulls back, holding himself up on his palms, peeling his gaze from my chest with some difficulty. We don't have to, he pants. I do, but... I prop myself up on my elbows. My shirt slips to cover the curve of my breasts. Lowe's eyes wander down again, until he tears them toward the window. Why don't you want to use contraceptive? If boys and humans can reproduce, nothing's off the table. We can, if you'd like, but we can't have sex. We can't? Not like that. I sit up, pulling down my shirt, and he shifts back, sitting on his knees. We stare at each other, breathing heavily, like we're in the middle of a Regency-era duel. Maybe we should discuss this. His throat bobs. We're not compatible like that, Misery. He says it like he knows this to be a fact. One he's given a lot of thought to. My eyebrow lifts. If Anna exists, it must be feasible. It's different. Why? Because I'm a vampire? I look down at the way I'm clutching the hem of my oversized shirt like it's a life raft. What we need here is some humor, to diffuse. I swear I don't have teeth down there. He doesn't smile. You are not the problem. I wait for him to continue. He doesn't. What's the problem? I don't want to hurt you. I glance at his groin. He pulled his underwear back up. It's tinted and the room is dark, and my view is not exhaustive by any means, but he looks normal. Good. Big, sure, but normal. I remember what he told me about Switzerland, the way different species live together. He said he didn't hang out much with vampires, but... Have you ever... with a human? He nods. And you hurt them? No. Then it'll be different. We're discussing sex, right? Penetrative intercourse? This insurmountable obstacle he's talking about must be located somewhere between his and my hardware. Except that he seems structurally standard. I grew up with a human. My reproductive organs don't significantly differ from humans who are assigned female at birth. It's not because you're a vampire, Misery. He swallows. It's because you're you. Because of what that does to me. I don't understand. He interrupts me with a kiss, bruising in a delicious, unhinged way. He cuffs my face, teeth pulling at my lower lip, and I lose track of our conversation. You're going to smell like this, he murmurs against my lips. It's happened already, and you weren't even in the fucking room. And I'm not going to be able to stop myself from wanting to finish. That's fine, I laugh, my forehead settles against his. I want you to finish. Misery, we are different species. I close my fingers around his wrists. You said you would... In Emery's office. I'm blushing, embarrassed to admit that I've been thinking about those words for days. I said I could fuck you. His throat works. Not that I would. I lower my eyes. Were you ever planning to tell me that we couldn't have sex? Misery. His eyes capture mine, and I suspect he can see everything. The very inside of me. It's sex, what we've done. What we're going to do. It's all sex. And it's all going to feel really good. I believe him. I really do. And yet, are you sure that you and I can't? I can show you. Would you like me to? I nod. He kisses me again, tenderly, clearly trying to take things slowly. I'm the one to wriggle away, to take off my shirt. Have you done any of this before? He asks against the crook of my neck, and I shake my head. He never judged me for it. But I want to explain. It felt weird, doing this with a human when I was already lying to them about everything, and vampires were never an option. I was always alone, at the border between those two worlds. The fact that I feel more at home than ever before with Aware, with someone whose proximity I should never have been in. There's something wrong about it, or painfully right. Feed more, he orders, pushing me down on the bed. We end up on our sides, facing each other. Not a position I'd associate with wild and uninhibited sexual activities. If I feed, we can't. With a hand on the back of my head, he guides my face into his neck. We can. He kicks his jeans away, and it's just his skin, hot against mine, the rough hairs on his arms and legs subtly foreign. I slid my shin between his knees and let my hand roam, curious, eager to explore. He is gloriously different, and while I'm not one to admire beauty, I cannot stop thinking that I like him. The way he looks, the way he feels, the way he likes me, the slight tremble in his fingers as they settle on my waist, the muscles of his body tightening with patient anticipation. You are so beautiful, he murmurs into my temple. I thought so since they first gave me that picture of you. You came walking down the aisle, and I was afraid to look. I hadn't even smelled you yet, and I already couldn't stop myself from staring. A stray notion crosses my mind, sweet and terrifying and utterly unlike me. I wish I was your mate. I know better than to say it. I know better than to think it. Instead, I feel his large hand close around my nape. I really want you to feed Misery. Sinking my teeth into him is becoming second nature, his flavor lovely and familiar. I don't let myself wonder how I'll go back to chili bags. I just take deep, blissful gulps, and when I hear his drawn-out, vibrating moan, when his hand drags my wrist down to his cock and closes my fingers around it, I'm happy and pliant and eager to please. He is hard, but also soft, and doesn't want much. He guides my hand up and down once more, and beyond that, he has no instructions for me. My touch appears to be enough, just like the rest of me. I'm going to come really fast, he puffs out. I let go of his vein with a wet pop. You don't have to. He laughs, falcing into my fist. Not much of a choice. He tightens my grip, giving himself the pressure he's craving. And then I'll show you what you do to me. Whatever he needs, I want the same. One of his thighs wedges between mine, and I rub myself against it, vaguely embarrassed at the lewd, rhythmic sounds the contact makes, and at the mess I'm making on him. But it feels good, too good to stop, and good enough to forget, and even better when his hand kneads my breasts, moves to the small of my back to cant my hips, positioning me so that, yes, there, I hum the word into his neck, around mouthfuls of blood. I'm shameless and dizzy and briefly happy, grinding and searching for pleasure like it's something he has in store for me. Not if, just when. I take one last drag and swallow, and then ask, is this good? Lowe's eyes stare unseeing into mine, and the fact that he seems too awestruck to be able to speak, the choppy, uncoordinated way he tries to nod his pleasure, that's what pushes me over. I let out a low, resonant whimper, and my orgasm spreads like a wave of heat. My breaths shorten, my vision narrows, and then I'm shuddering all over Lowe's thigh, rolling against him like a wild creature. I forget what I was doing for him, the rhythm I was keeping, the twisty, lingering touch he enjoys. But even then, just seeing and hearing my pleasure seems to do it for him. His arms tighten around me. His cock becomes harder. His mouth against mine chants a string of obscene, pleading things about how much he wants this, how beautiful I am, how he'll always think of me when he does this from now on, till the day he dies. His semen is hot on my fingers, on my belly. The sounds in his throat belong to something that lives in the underbrush of the forest. Someone lost to rational thought. It's beautiful, I think. Not just the pleasure, but sharing it with someone else, someone I care about and maybe love a little bit, as much as I'm able. And then the things he's saying change. Unlike my orgasm, which bloomed and exploded and ebbed, his lasts, crests, and Low shivers and pans and groans through it before he asks me, you want to know? I nod, still out of breath. His hand comes down to guide mine lower on his cock until we reach the base. Shit. His cheeks are flushed, head tilted back. I don't immediately understand, not until his soft skin changes. Something inflates under my palm. Low's hand closes around mine, pressing it there, circling the swelling protuberance, like all he wants is for it to be enclosed, held within something. It grows larger, and Low's stilled groans grow louder, and misery. He sang my name like a prayer, like I'm the only thing standing between him and heaven on earth. And that's when I understand what he meant. Sexually, he and I might not be fully compatible. Chapter 23. Most players have highly organized investment portfolios. That's where the expenses for infrastructure and the leadership roles who don't have the time to hold other jobs come from. They go to Davenport's house. Low slams him against the wall. Davenport had Jolicoeur killed because he was about to expose Davenport for embezzlement. They're spying on Davenport and go to meet Owen, and Gabby's there. Chapter 24. The cameras outside Serena's apartment were tampered with. Owen wants to take over their dad's seat on the council, and he wants to get rid of the collateral system. Gabby is nice and friendly with Low, but not romantic. Misery is jealous. Even though I told myself I'd be able to deal with this when it happened, the jealous heartache is too much. I cannot watch. Gabby's not Low's mate. Chapter 25. Misery says, something elusive dangles in front of my nose, but I can't focus on it. It's a tip of the tongue state, a sneeze that won't start and teeters there, waiting. Misery is just stupid. Misery and Low go to Misery's apartment. Misery says, the collateral is entitled to a small trust fund, and I used pretty much all of my money on my fake human IDs, and then to put myself and Serena through college. Because I don't know why Serena couldn't put herself through college? But whatever, I guess. Low lied about Gabby being his mate, and then they have sex. But it has. We study each other across several feet, and there's a question bubbling deep in my belly, and an answer simmering inside him, a tentative certainty that warms the air between us. My feet drag me to low of their own accord. They push me up on my toes, and I'm kissing him as intensely as I can. Too much pressure, too fast. My arms loop tight around his neck like a noose. He doesn't immediately respond, but it's confusion more than hesitation. After a beat, his hands close around my waist, trapping me between him and the wall, deepening the contact. Misery. The words come out jumbled between our lips. His erection brushes against my stomach, and we both gasp. We shouldn't, he says, pulling back. But when I ask him, why, his lips find mine again. The kiss started high, but still managed to escalate. I know. I think my hands travel down, pulling up his shirt and exposing a strip of warm skin. I cannot say it out loud because I don't know what I need. It has to do with the truth and him admitting it, but it's a confused, painful thorn tangled in my head. Can we? Yeah, we can. He's at once urgent and soothing. We can. There's a couch right behind us, but Lo flips me around until my front is pressed to the wall, forehead and forearm flush against it. Slow down, he commands, mouth sucking on my neck, a light chant playing over the center of my back. My heart flutters. In the slipperiness of this moment, it's exactly what I need to hear. You're just so good. He's being aware or alpha or low again. Pressing open mouth bites into my neck, I moan and he pushes harder into me. You need to tell me. This place smells like you and your scent is shooting up my brain and I cannot think about anything but fucking you. So if you want me to stop, I need you to tell me. I press my forehead harder against the wall. Please don't stop. He sways softly, sounding ruined. He makes quick work of pulling up my shirt and unfastening my jeans. I arch against him. His mouth, his chest, his cock. One of his large palms comes up to the wall, right beside mine, and I extend my little finger to brush against his thumb. I'm requesting more, and he gets it. But instead of giving it to me, he nuzzles the crook of my throat. We should slow down. He laughs, rueful, hot into my skin. The opposite. Misery, he starts. I want to have sex. A yearning guttural noise vibrates into my skin. Misery. It's fine. It's gonna work out. It's not. Why? You know why. His arms cross on my belly and pull me to him, possessive, a little frustrated. We can't. We're both shaking with this deep, bottomless need inside me. Is it desire? Is this why people do impulsive, mindless, hot-headed things? It must have happened before. A male were and a female vampire. Our species have existed for thousands of years, and we didn't always hate each other. We could try. I'm not afraid of your... He laughs unsteadily against my throat. You don't even know what it's called. What does it matter? Am I wrong? I let out a bitter hum, and he shushes me with a nip on the valley behind my ear. You don't know what you're asking for, do you? Just tell me then. Then I'll know, and a knot. It's called a knot. I savor the word in my head, marveling at how well it fits. Say it, Lo orders, and when I hesitate, he adds, please, not, a knot. His grip tightens. His breath goes shallow. Shit. What? I think I'd like to hear you say it again. I do, just because he asked. He clutches my hip as though he likes the encore even more. You know what its purpose is? I may know nothing about were biology, but I'm not stupid or naive. Yes, say it. This is simultaneously the mortifying and the most erotic experience of my entire life, to keep it inside. His hand slides underneath my shirt, gently stroking the underside of my breast. Keep what inside, sweetheart? I close my eyes. My heart beats a pounding, sluggish rhythm into every inch of my skin. You're calm. His big body shudders for a moment, then rewards me with a nibble on the tip of my ear. You'd be okay with that? I nod. He groans. I'm not sure I'd be willing to risk hurting you. I wish I could see his face. You can stop if it hurts, if it doesn't work. What if I can't? You will. I know you will. Or I won't be able to, because I want it too much. His fingers move back down, skimming my underwear, knuckles white against the damp blue cotton. He murmurs something about how slick I am, and when the heel of his palm starts massaging my clit in a slow rhythm, I sigh in pleasure and relief. I really want to. Fuck, he exhales, and then he shifts behind me. His palm fully covers my hand on the wall. I'm here. Okay, I've got you. I can't fuck you like this. He pulls my jeans around my knees and crowds me tighter into the wall. Let me get you there. I don't fully understand what he means until one of his hands grabs my hip bone and the other slides inside my panties, stretching the cotton in a way that feels obscene. He bites me with two of his fingers and lets out a hushed, reverential groan as he stares at himself, touching me under the soft fabric. His heartbeat punches into my back, and when his teeth find my throat and start scraping, then nibbling, then biting just hard enough, when his finger circles my clit just right, that's when I come. It's unexpected, too fast. Barely a climb, and I'm already dropping down, gasping for air. But it feels like an interrupted half thing, and I don't let myself catch my breath. I reach back, frantically grasping to undo his jeans. Quiet, he orders, pinning my hands to the small of my back. You need to give me a minute. I'm figuring this out. I force myself to relax. It's obvious that, on average, the sex his people have and the sex of my people are different flavors, just as it's obvious that he and I inhabit some overlapping space. I would expect nothing more. This would be easier if you smelled a little less fuckable, he says raggedly. But I hear the clinking sound of his belt, and then I feel it, the head of his cock pressing against the soaked panties that stick to my pussy. I free myself to reach down, stroke his length, and he makes a choke sound. It's hot and large, but the thing at the base, his knot, hasn't swelled yet. Last time it inflated when he came. I want to know if that's the norm, but asking will send Lo into another spin of concern, and I don't need him to worry about me. Please, I beg, please put it in. He nods against my temple, breath shallow and quick. He hooks my underwear to the side and pushes his cock inside me. The burning stretch deepening until it cannot go any further, and whatever it is that I expected from having a man, having Lo inside me, this is different. I inhale abruptly. He exhales the same way. There's no need for negotiation, no pain, and no struggle. I'm pliant and he's hard. I'm wet and he's groaning. We fit. The biological compatibility Lo told me about, the one between mates. I don't presume to know what that would be like. All I know is we feel pretty fucking perfect, he murmurs, bottoming out, gripping my waist like he's trying to collect himself. I don't know why. This feels exquisite in a sharp, cruel way. Vampires don't read minds, but I know what he's thinking. How easy it would be to live in this forever. To just never stop. Don't move or I'll come. He licks a stripe up the back of my neck. Shit, I might come anyway, just from your scent and your little bit. I might too, very soon, especially as he moves with experimental, shallow thrusts that hit everywhere inside me. I feel myself tighten in little flutters around him, and he stops. Then he bends over to whisper against my ear. If you're about to come, tell me, because that'll make me come, and I need to pull out or I might hit you, okay? He sounds calm, even when his controller is about to snap. I nod, trying to stave off the surge of pleasure. Okay. He presses another gentle chest kiss against my nape, and then draws out. The friction is delicious, and I arch back, making plaintive sounds as only the tip is left inside. When he pushes in again, a little deeper, I whimper. Too much? The only answer I can manage is a squeeze around his cock. His palm slaps against the wall with a curse. I've been thinking about this, I tell him barely a whisper. His yeah is apologetic. I tried not to. I turn my head. He's hulking, wrapped around me. His cheek is there, stubbly and flushed olive and perfect for me to kiss. Me too. Then he adds, smiling. Not too hard, though. I lose track of time when he starts thrusting, and so does he. We move together, sweating and winded. He stops after a few minutes to take off the edge, and then again a couple of minutes after that. He pulls out when he needs a break from the stimulation, and I feel empty, shaking with frustrated pleasure. So he slides his fingers inside me, keeping me full as he winds down, hot and hard against my hip. The lights from the street pour in through the windows, and our breathing grows choppy. When I can't stop myself, when I'm sensitive and swollen and about to shatter so high that a single thrust is okay to bring me off, I can barely remember to warn him. I'm about to... I come again, the pleasure curling tight inside me. What happens to Lo is fuzzy, eclipsed by my own pleasure, but I make out some of it. A sharp grunt, a sudden feeling of emptiness, that part of him swelling hotter and harder against the globes of my ass. Then his cum, warm and wet, pulling into the small of my back. And then we stay like that, breathing together, wiped of thought. He presses his forehead against my shoulder, one hand splayed on my abdomen as if to contain me. And maybe it's whatever chemicals flood vampire brains after sex, but I cannot accept that this is not destined, that we are not meant to be. My voice is rasping from swallowing my moans. I clear my throat and hear myself ask, do where's always not? He lets out a shuddering breath. Don't move. He presses a kiss against my cheekbone. I'm gonna clean you up. Where do you keep... Don't leave. I turn around to look at him, and he looks ravaged, vulnerable, happy. My shirt slips down, but this is my apartment. I have nothing but changes of clothes. Can you answer my question first? He shakes his head. We don't, but then adds, it's complicated. I don't think it's complicated. In fact, I suspect it might be very simple. Explain it to me, please. It's a sign of... It only happens between certain people. My shirt is completely askew, and he trails kisses on the jutting bone of my shoulder, getting lost in the act before straightening my neckline. He inhales deeply. On second thought, I'm not going to clean you up. I'll just leave you like this. His hand snakes around my waist, to my lower back where I'm sticky and wet. Send a clear message to anyone who smells you, who you belong to. Nasty. Stop being weird. Had it ever happened to you before? He's smearing his cum into my skin with his thumb, and why am I okay with this? Before? It's nasty. Misery says she's Lo's mate, and Lo says she isn't. Chapter 26. Mick comes to pick up Misery and drugs her, and that's all that happens. Chapter 27. Misery has been brought to where Serena has been held captive. I've read like 3 Dickens novels. Appalling. The Catcher in the Rye 2. God. That just felt like really weird coming from an author. Like, the classics are the classics for a reason, my guy. Don't shit on them. They end up escaping, and it turns out they were in the nest, and Vanaya's there. Chapter 28. Misery's dad was behind everything, and he kidnapped Mick's son. I don't know if... Misery says, then you should have told Lo. Mick shakes his head. Lo would have done anything for you. I hiss, nauseous with rage. Lo would die himself before he let anything happen to a pack member. You've known him since he was a child. He's your alpha, and yet you don't understand it at all. Anger bubbles. I can't remember the last time I spoke this harshly to someone. It turns out Serena's actually half werewolf. Owen and Lo come in. Misery says, I see every emotion in the observable universe pass through them. The dad says, you know, you are a very hard man to thrall. I tried during our only meeting alone, after the marriage ceremony. Usually I'll be able to hook into a wearer human in a matter of seconds, but with you it simply didn't work. Because Lo is so great, guys. Lo and Misery are mates, somehow, despite Misery not being a werewolf. Misery's dad threatens to kill Misery to try to get Lo to give up Anna because she's half human, and that might make the humans and werewolves form an alliance. Serena turns into a wolf. Chapter 29. Lo, Owen, and Serena killed the guards, and they have the dad tied up. Lo and Owen ask Misery what to do with the dad, and she doesn't care. And says, unless the need arises, feel free to never tell me what you settle on, which just felt lazy. Like, dude, he's like the main villain. Like, at least, how are you not gonna do anything with him? Misery and Serena talk, and Misery says she's in love with Lo, despite knowing each other for like 2 weeks. This is where I started really annoyed in my notes. Chapter 30. Owen tells Misery that she doesn't have to stay married to Lo anymore, and he says, I am not an agony aunt. Whatever that means. It's never explained. Is that like a thing in this universe? Who knows? Serena and Juno hang out. Misery goes back to her room in Lo's house, and it's empty because Lo moved her stuff so he could put in new windows that are like better for vampires. They have sex. I see his pupils widen, and then it's a done deal. Lo's self-control snaps, and I'm underneath him. My clothes come off with frenzied tugs, then his follow, and I remember the first time we did anything that approached this. His restrained hesitation in the bathtub. I can barely recognize it in the way he touches me, the way his hand shapes my lower back to arch my body into his like an offering. We both mean to ease into this, but he's harder than I thought, and I'm wetter than he expected. It takes very little, just a few thrusts through my fold, but we're on the brink. The blunt head of his cock is bumping against my clit, and when he pulls back, it's caught against my entrance, ready to slide in. You're so warm inside, so wet, just for my knot. He presses a kiss at my temple and whispers something that could be soft. Then he pushes deep inside me. He's big in a stretching, satisfying way that rings faint alarm bells in my head. I squirm, feeling pinned, impaled, and it's the readjustment we both need. He slides into the hill. I arch up, slapping my palms against the mattress. Our hearts stop at the same time, then resume, mine with lagging thuds. His a beating drum. Misery, I want to live inside you. That's nasty. He gathers me in his arms. I lift my chin to kiss the corner of his mouth, and we don't ease into the sex. Lo pulls all the way out, and then thrusts back inside in an uneven pounding rhythm, without hitting himself. Last time, he tried to make it last. This time, he's hurtling headfirst into what's coming, and my body might not understand, but it responds enthusiastically. His gaze holds mine as he fucks me. The pressure of his hips spread open spreads me open, and when my eyes flutter close, I surrender to the pleasure. He paints in my ear things like good and okay. Garbled talk that doesn't make sense. Because he's well beyond thought. My internal muscles tighten to keep him inside longer, squeezing around his cock, and that liquid heat I'm now familiar with climbs inside me. And then something changes. Low pumps once, twice, so hard that my hands slip over his sweaty shoulders. The crescendo of heavy breathing stops abruptly, and my eyes open. I expect to find him worried again, to have to reassure him, but his control has unraveled past that. He commands, eyes on mine, and there's no uncertainty in his voice, just the knowledge that this is how it's supposed to be. I cannot speak, so I nod. He nods back and rasps, it's starting. A moment later, I feel an impression of immense pressure. He feels me slowly, thrusting languidly once, twice, until the swelling at the base of his cock is too big to slide back out. Then he's shaking, grunting from deep inside him. I run my teeth down his neck, and he moans, cradling my face to his throat and my hips to his groin. The bulge of his knot grows larger and larger. I feel strange, full, nice. I might even feel... I'm going to do it, Misery. I'm going to come where I'm supposed to. His voice is barely comprehensible. I'm going to pop a knot in your tight little... The sudden shift and the pressure increases. Low is coming. His orgasm a powerful thing that neither of us is ready for. He tries to get deeper, even when there's nowhere to go, even past the moment where I think his pleasure should have ended. I make myself pliant and welcoming, until he seems to recover enough presence of mind to say, my beautiful mate, taking it so well. Another wave of pleasure crashes over him as he spits inside me, and his neck strains back, eyes glazed. I circle my hips, testing, tugging, and find that he's lodged into me, and we're tethered together, and yes, it feels good. I say, just on the edge of pain, but also, I'm a being made of heat and sensation. My muscles twitch and he exhales, still shuddering inside me. The spasms of his climax contracting his big body. This is so good. It feels so nice. I need more contact, more friction. I need him to move even if he can't. I try to flex myself over his knot, but there is no give. I try to squeeze around him, and Lo lets out a breathless laugh. He seems to recover himself from the days of his orgasm, just enough to shush me and reach between us. It takes so little, just a brush of his thumb, and then I'm coming, too. My eyes roll in the back of my head, and I've never felt anything so violently, madly, painfully good. Lo, I'm scared of how intense it is. But he lets out a wordless groan, bites my collarbone, and I know he feels exactly like I do. The pleasure brutal, pulsating, impossible to stop. My beautiful mate, coming all over my knot. We're going to do this every day, he husks in my ear, and when you're ready, I'll bite you where it counts. I'll leave a scar, and I'll lick it every morning and every night, okay? I nod. Wild, bottomless ecstasy pulses sweetly inside me. It works, I think. We work. But I don't bother saying it because it's obvious. Instead, I ask, what now? He shudders and flips us until I'm draped on top of him. His hands shake slightly as he traces the swell of my back. His nails feel... No, I must be imagining. Now? He closes his eyes and arches his hips as if trying to get deeper inside me. I'm not certain it works, but the knot tracks beautifully against my walls. It rides an exquisite line between pleasure and pain, and triggers more spasms on my end. Then on his. Fuck, he mutters briefly. And once he can speak again, he growls. Now everything is how it should be. I have you where I want you. How long? I don't know. He kisses my temple. A long time, I hope. So if I really need to leave to make an important phone call... His grip tightens on my hips so suddenly I nearly laugh. Lo moves down to my lips, kissing me deeply for a moment. Are you sure it doesn't hurt? No, it's extraordinary, fantastic, oddly beautiful. I think I like were sex. Not were sex. His eyes hold mine for a long beat. Mate sex. I feel myself smile at the word. Is this gonna happen every time? I don't know. He repeats, hand coming up to push my sweaty strands back. The way I feel, I can't imagine that it won't. Because I stop when I notice his hand. Most of it is still in human form, but his nails are halfway to turning into claws. Sorry, he says sheepish. I watch him make a concerted effort to retract them, amazed by his body, the way it feels inside mine, the things it can do. I'm not as in control as I should be. It's all really new, good, like nothing else, ever. Is there something Wares usually do? Something I should be doing? He laughs in silent astonishment and shakes his head. If they were, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't want it. You are perfect, and I... His fingers slide between us, past the sweat of our bellies, making me twitch with more pleasure. My muscles flutter around him, and in response, I feel more liquid flood inside me. And when the new wave of pleasure is over, and I'm gasping on top of him, I realize that Lo is touching me where we're joined, where his cock has locked inside me, like he needs tactile proof that this is really happening. When he turns us on our sides, one of my long legs hiked on top of his. I could feel his cum dripping outside of me, even past the seal of our bodies. The mess we're making, of the bed and of each other. Somehow it seems like a good thing. Outside, the waves crash against the lakeshore. Lowe's fingers wrap around my cheek. I feel the pleasure rise inside me once more, and I settle in for the long haul. Lowe says, and when I finally bite you, it won't be on your neck. He lets out a rueful laugh. Nothing as dignified for us, Misery. Oh. Where? His palm rounds my throat, cups my nape. The pad of his thumb traces down my spine, just one or two vertebrae. Here. I think I'll bite you here. He says it like it's a secret, filthy plan he's been working on for a while. You'll wear your hair up, and people will know that I took my beautiful vampire bride the way wolves do, and that she loved it. And you will be good for me and let me, won't you? I would let you right this moment, I think, but I don't bother saying it. That's gross. Nobody wants to know how you had sex. Nobody cares if you had sex doggy style or what. Shut up. Misery bites Flo again, and they have sex in the shower.
By the way, when are we going to, carry on from where we left off that night?
Anytime but now.
Which, like, how does that work logistically? How, like, because there's, like, nodding. Like, if you've got a dick stuck in you, how are you gonna get out of the shower? Anyway, then there's the epilogue, which is from Lowe's POV, but it's in third person for some reason. It says, she makes a lot of you are officially condemned to a lifetime of misery jokes. Misery is not funny. This book is not funny. Cohen brings Anna home and he sees Serena, and it turns out they're mates. Cohen is old enough that Lowe calls him Uncle Cohen, and he's said to be like 10 years older than Misery and Lowe and Serena. This is gross. I hate Cohen. I like to believe that Serena tells Cohen to fuck himself and then goes and marries Juno. Then in the acknowledgments, he thanks AO3, which, if you don't know, is a fanfiction website, which this book came out in February 2024. This is, I don't know when the acknowledgments were written, but AO3 recently, before this was published, I think, told a volunteer that they couldn't have From the River to the Sea as their, like, Discord thingy. AO3 also allows sexual content involving real-life children. Unfortunately, it is a very popular fanfiction website. I'm just saying, not the kind of website you should thank in your acknowledgments for in your book. Honestly, should have stayed on AO3, I guess. I would say Wattpad, but we know she uses AO3, so should have stayed on AO3. It's a decent fanfic idea. It's decent enough that I decided to steal it from my own fanfic. This is the fourth, I think, time I am recording this, conclusion part. And I am tired. I didn't like the book was not good. I didn't like it. It was poorly written. The plot was boring and nonsensical. And it should have stayed on AO3. As you may or may not know, Hazelwood I believe her first book was The Love Hypothesis, which was originally a Reylo, or Kylo Ren Rey from Star Wars, fanfiction called Head Over Feet. I will link it in the description. I found it. It was removed from AO3, but I found it. And I will link it in the I will link a Reddit post with a link to a PDF file for the fic. Because fuck you, Allie Hazelwood. You will not escape you will not be able to. I will not let you hide from this. You must pay for your sins. That's very dramatic. No, I didn't read it. The book or the fic. But, in the book, the published book, I believe the male lead is named Adam Carlson. Like car, like driver, like Adam Driver. And apparently there is a character based on Daisy Ridley's real-life husband, who is portrayed as just, like, a creepy guy. Which is weird. Why did you do that, Allie Hazelwood? I think published fanfic is really lazy. Like the After series and everything Cassandra Clare wrote, and 50 Shades of Grey, that series. It's just lazy. You just took like, as a fanfic author myself, you just took characters and it's just lazy. Like, you couldn't be bothered to put in the effort to actually make unique characters. And, like, it'd be one thing if, it was set in, like, this super complicated fantasy world that, like, the author put that you can tell the author put, like, a lot of time and effort into, and maybe they just had trouble coming up with unique characters. Like, that'd be one thing. But no, they're all contemporary romance. Everything Allie Hazelwood wrote, all of Allie Hazelwood's books, except for Bride, are contemporary romance. 50 Shades of Grey is, I don't know, but it's After by Anna Todd they're all set in, like, our world. I don't know the genre, but they're all set in, like, the real world. But yeah, that's why I don't like Allie Hazelwood. I just think it's really lazy. There was no reason for Misery to be a virgin. I feel like in a lot of romance, the woman always has to be a virgin for some reason. And, like, she says she felt weird about, like, having sex with a human and, like, not telling them that she's a vampire, but, like, just have a one-night stand. You don't need to tell them shit. Also, in one of the sex scenes, Lo says, no, was it during the sex scene? I don't remember. But at some point, Lo says, and they will know that I took my beautiful vampire bride the way wolves do. And I cannot fucking stand it when having sex is referred to as the guy taking the girl. It makes me cringe. It feels very misogynistic to me. I can't explain why. Someone smarter than me probably could. But that's not me. Yeah, I already said the book was boring. Like, there was no plot. they barely spend any time on Serena's disappearance. And I get that it's a romance, and so the romance was the priority. But, like, can you, like, the plot was just bad, and there were no stakes. Misery was never in danger. Misery was never in any danger. Not when she got kidnapped or poisoned or when her dad had a knife to her throat. I would have liked to focus more on the power struggle between Lo and the Loyals. Instead of that mostly taking place off page. Yeah, I think that was, if, like, if Lo and Emery were, like, neighbors or something, and, like, that would actually... Emery is too far from the main plot for me to give a shit about her. And also, we're never shown her doing anything bad. We're told she does bad stuff. At the end, it said that they found proof that she was behind a bombing of a school, or that she was planning to bomb a school or something. And, like, but we don't see any proof. It's just told to us by Lo. Lo says, yeah, we got proof that Emery was planning on bombing a school, and so she's not a problem anymore. It was... Oh. Also, the way... we're never told what happens to Misery's dad, whether he was killed or not, and to me that came off like Allie Hazelwood couldn't decide whether he should live or die, so she just decided to not include that. Maybe that's just me, though. I didn't like that. I would have liked a definitive... Like, I mean, he's like the big bad, like, and you're not going to say what happened to him? That's weird and lazy. Misery was so annoying. The characters in general weren't great. The only one I actually liked was Anna, but even she had, like, no real personality. None of the characters have any real personality, honestly. Like, if you asked me to tell you anything about Juno, all I could say is that she didn't like Misery at first. And at the end, she was friends with Serena, I guess. Anna wasn't in the book enough. I wish she was in it more, because she was the only good character. And, well, Lo had his moments, I guess. When he was with Anna, though, like, that's the only time I liked him. Otherwise, he was either really bland or kinda creepy. Every character in the book is presumably cishet and white. I say presumably because none of the characters are explicitly described as being people of color, but none of the characters are described as being people of color. If a character is not explicitly described as being queer or a person of color, then I will assume that they are not queer or a person of color. Misery should have been autistic or somehow neurodivergent. she says she's weird, but she really isn't. It's the only weird thing about her is that she's a vampire living among humans. Like, she's just normal. I think if she was autistic or otherwise neurodivergent, that would have, her claims of being weird would have actually had a leg to stand on, as opposed to just being very, I'm weird, I'm a weirdo. The world building is terrible. It's very vague and lazy. It's, from what I can tell, basically just our world. But there are vampires and werewolves. And the vampires have purple blood and werewolves have green blood. And I saw fan art of, like, Misery drinking Lo's blood, and just, it looked so stupid with the green blood. The art was great. The art was nice. But the green blood looked so stupid. I'm sorry. I'm not sure how Allie Hazelwood wants me to feel about Mick, but I just feel sympathy for him, honestly. Like, Misery says Lo would have helped him, but, like, realistically, what could Lo have done that wouldn't put Mick's son in danger? And more danger than he was already in. It's like saying that, like, Barry from Resident Evil was, like, so bad because Wesker blackmailed him with the safety of his wife and children. Like, it's stupid. Again, I don't know how Allie Hazelwood wants me to feel, but if it's anything other than sympathy, she fucked up. The sex scenes were boring. I saw one review that said Allie Hazelwood had guts for putting in a full-on nodding scene in a mainstream romance, but it's like, it's just boring. It's just boring. Like, I don't care enough about Misery and Lo to want to read about them having sex. I've also seen reviewers calling it slow burn. It's not. It literally only takes place over, like, a few weeks. That's not slow burn, my guy. And it's not like it's a long book. It's only like 400 pages or something. 396 pages. It's not fucking slow burn. I hate the concept of soulmates. I really don't like the idea of not being able to choose who to love. I enjoy a good soulmate AU every once in a while, but, like, I'd rather read about two characters who are not soulmates, but decide to be together anyway, than two characters who are soulmates and are in love because of that. Yeah, I just don't like soulmates. Another way this book was not meant for me. Also, it was supposed to be forbidden romance, but it's like, 1, it's straight. 2, you can't have forbidden romance and soulmates in the same romance. One couple cannot be both forbidden romance and soulmates. That's not how that works. Like, those are opposites, my guy. And, like, I hate when, I hate, like, straight forbidden romances. It feels like straight people just really want to be obsessed so badly that, like, they fantasize about being in situations that queer people are in anyway. And straight white people. Because, interracial relationships weren't always, straight white people. I'm only talking about straight white people. I don't know enough about, as a white person, I am not educated enough about, interracial relationships to speak on that. So, but yeah, technically, yes, Misery and Lo are an interracial relationship because they're a vampire and a werewolf. But they're also both white, and a man and a woman, and both cisgender. I always just say cis. They're both cis. Which is not a slur, Elon Musk, you idiot. I really hope there's not a sequel. It was kind of teased at the end with, Serena and Cohen being mates, but if there is a sequel, as Neil Gaiman once said, I will step in front of a bus and leave a suicide note explaining exactly why it is Ali Hazelwood's fault. According to Google, Lo is 29, and Cohen is said to be 10 years older than him, which would make him 39. And Google says that Misery, and therefore Serena, are 25. Age gaps are nothing new for Ali Hazelwood. Apparently Kylo Ren was meant to be 30-something, and Rey was 18 or 19 in the Star Wars movies, so... And also, there's a big age gap. There's a decent age gap between the characters in The Love Hypothesis. So... Yikes. No. It's... just... I don't like it. The idea of alpha wolves is severely outdated. I did do research on it. I found an article from scientificamerican.com called Is the Alpha Wolf Idea a Myth? I'll put a link in the description so you can read it for yourself. But it says, Mech, like many wildlife biologists, once used terms such as alpha and beta to describe the pecking order in wolf packs, but now they are decades out of date, he says. This terminology arose from research done on captive wolf packs in the mid-20th century, but captive packs are nothing like wild ones, Mech says. When keeping wolves in captivity, humans typically throw together adult animals with no shared kinship. In these cases, a dominance hierarchy arises, Mech adds, but it's the animal equivalent of what might happen in a human prison, not the way wolves behave when they are left to their own devices. In contrast, wild wolf packs are usually made up of a breeding male, a breeding female, and their offspring from the past 2 or 3 years that have not yet set out on their own, perhaps 6 to 10 individuals. Ali Hazelwood has a PhD in neuroscience. It is incredibly irresponsible of her to participate in the spread of misinformation about wolf biology. It may not seem like a big deal, but this actually affects how people treat their dogs. Sorry, I'm really upset about this, but Cesar Millan, the dog guy, apparently said that since dogs are descended from wolves, and wolves have alpha wolves that are the most dominant, then you must be dominant over your dog. This is not true. It's not. sorry, I'm really mad. It's so irresponsible. I get that it's fantasy, okay? But, look at Jaws. Look at how Jaws has affected sharks. Look at that fucking documentary Disney made that made people believe lemmings jumped off cliffs for no reason. It's decades out of date. Do better, Allie Hazelwood. I know it's a little thing. It seems like a little thing, but you have a fucking PhD! How are you not doing basic fucking research? I am literally shaking right now. I'm so fucking mad. Misinformation of any kind is dangerous. That's what I believe. And even if it is something as small as people training their dogs badly because they believe a myth about wolves and sorry, I can't. I'm so fucking mad right now. It's not. Listen, if it was an indie book, maybe I'd get it. But it's not. It is a mainstream book. Fucking, who published it? Penguin. It's published by fucking Penguin. And written by a fucking PhD. What? Did you get your PhD and then decide, oh, I'm done with research? No, that's not how that works. Okay? You don't get to just spread misinformation like that. I don't understand how a scientist, a doctor, is content to spread misinformation about anything. I'm so fucking mad. I didn't think I would go off like this. I wasn't planning. This was entirely unscripted. This whole video is unscripted. This microphone isn't plugged in. I know the audio sounds like shit. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just so mad right now. I am smiling so I don't start fucking angry crying. I need to take a break. I'm so fucking sweaty. It's so hot in here. Okay, I'm calm now. Sorry, I didn't expect that to happen. I just, started talking, and then I got mad, and then it got madder. I really just think it's irresponsible of anyone, especially someone with a PhD, to be complicit in the spread of misinformation. Even if it is just that the idea that there is such a thing as an alpha wolf. I mean, it's either she knew and she didn't care, or she couldn't be bothered to do about 5 seconds of research. Because, literally just Google, are alpha wolves real? Or is there such a thing as an alpha wolf? Anyway, on a lighter note, the last thing I have to say on this book is there is a special edition. It's very popular, surprisingly. I didn't know that. I'm not really involved in, book spaces online. I generally tend to be more involved with video games. But, yes. This book was very popular, is very popular. And it was popular enough that it got a special edition cover. That looks like this. Which, it's just boring and bland. And it doesn't look like a paranormal romance at all. It looks like a contemporary romance, which, I mean, the art is fine for a contemporary romance, not so much a paranormal romance. Didn't like the book? If you want to see more book reviews, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join my Patreon for, I will post about the books I'm reading for the books that I am planning on making videos about. Support me on Ko-fi. Follow Care for Gaza on Twitter, and also donate to Care for Gaza, or any other. Support Palestine. I'll link the Twitter account for Care for Gaza in the description, but if there are any, feel free to put a link to any other charity supporting Palestine and Palestinians in the comments, or any GoFundMes for organized by Palestinians. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. I sometimes very rarely post about books. Mostly it's Resident Evil. And follow me on Twitch. I'm playing the original Resident Evil 3 right now. It's fun. Is there anything else? If there is, I'll put it in the description. Oh, right, yes. I completely forgot. I will put a link to a TikTok I saw that goes more into depth about why the special edition cover is bad from an artist's perspective. If you want to watch that, I don't know, bye.
You can stop right there, Leon. Wouldn't make me use this, would you?
Well, after 6 years, that is one hell of a greeting, Ada.
You don't seem surprised. Interesting.
Try using knives next time. Better for close encounters.
Not a bad move. Very smooth.
So who are you working for this time?
Oh, Leon. You know I don't work in town. Leave the girl. She's lost no matter what. You walk away now, and who knows? Maybe you'll live to meet me again. And then I might get you that greeting you were looking for.
You think I'm gonna give up that easy?
Right. How about we continue this discussion another time?